George Square, right in the centre of Glasgow, is our stage for the start of an exciting new athletics venture. Hello and good evening from Glasgow, where we're all set for the start of a series of 3 city centre road races that will also be taking us to Cardiff and to Westminster in London. It's 10 kilometres for the men, 3 kilometres for the women, and with the sponsors Gaymers putting up £45,000 in prize money, these are the richest series of races of their type ever staged in Britain. And there's also a great incentive for the top club as well. This series really the brainchild of David Bedford, very familiar face, chairman of the International Athletes Club. David, here you're really taking athletics to the people.
Yes, the whole concept with this whole side of series was that we would get the people around the courses, bring the athletes to the public. Instead of sending them to stadiums to watch the athletes competing, we brought them to the city centres, and we're very excited about this new idea.
Do you feel this could be the start of something really big for British athletics?
Yes, I think so. As you know, we've got another 2 in the forthcoming weeks taking place, and I think that this is the shape of road running to come in this country.
Good. OK, David, thank you very much indeed for joining us. As you can see, the women are all set to go behind me. It's a bit windy, rather cool here in Glasgow. 3 kilometres, just under 2 miles round this square. And remarkably, we have 2 sets of identical twins in our race. Angela and Susan Tooby, and Paula Fudge and Anne Ford, formerly the Yeoman twins. And to sort them all out for you, our commentary team, Ron Hill, Peter Matthews and Alan Parry.
Yes, many's the time I've had double vision after a Saturday night out in Glasgow, Jim, but this is ridiculous. Susan Tooby wearing number 10, Angela Tooby number 9 in that lineup, Paula Fudge number 17, Anne Ford number 16. They used to be the Yeoman twins. And number 5 is Shireen Sammy. Unfortunately for the commentators anyway, her sister Marina not able to run today. But really this, almost certainly the highest quality field ever gathered in Great Britain for a women's road race. A little about the course, and then you can see already that one of the features of this course is the sharpness of the turns. In fact, they run, as you can see perfectly, around George Square, right in the heart of the city of Glasgow. And the first 400 metres or so is a complete lap of the square before they go off into a long straight. And to make up the 3,000 metres, which the ladies run, they will run 3.5 times around the full course. But the first 5 bends are very, very sharp indeed, and we expected to see perhaps a little more elbowing and a little more jostling for position than we have seen so far. Number 12 in the yellow vest, the early leader, Caroline Horn from Crawley. The same club as Tim Hutchings, one of the favourites for the men's race, which follows a little later. Wearing number 25 on Caroline's left in the red top with the Bath vest, clearly visible, Julia Gates. And those Tooby twins. Well, can you tell them apart? There they are on the right-hand side of the picture. Number 9 is Angela Tooby, and in the blue shorts, number 10, Susan Tooby. Angela, slightly the taller, though from this distance that's very hard to judge. And already the crowd here in Glasgow beginning to sense, I think, Ron Hill, that the quality of this field is likely to produce a very good race.
Yeah, with such tight corners, you said it's George Square. I mean, it really is a square. Those bends are right angle, and obviously we were lucky to have a very clean start. There was no jostling, but it was a fast start to get to the corner first and not run the risk of having to run behind a huge crowd. The course just jinxes off a little bit to the right there, and that terrifically fast start has really spread the field out, as we just saw from that shot.
On the right-hand side of the picture, in the light blue top, number 51 is Kirsty McDermott, a late entrant into this race, and one of those that the rest of the field will know, a girl who has to be watched. The Commonwealth Games 800 metres gold medalist, who ran a very good 1,500-metre time in Hendon last week. That's Kirsty McDermott, just the leader from the Tooby twins, Angela number 9 and Susan number 10. Wearing number 22 on the left-hand side of the picture, the blonde girl in the orange-coloured vest is Jill Clark from Sheffield Athletics Club, in very good form this year, and recently ran a very good half marathon. But the Tooby twins, as expected, both front runners, both happy to take up this position, and as they mount the first incline in the race, the Tooby twins in the lead.
And they've just passed there the 1 kilometre point. That's a third of the way through the race. And the time there, displayed on the clock, 2 minutes 56.9. So that's about 8:50 pace, a good pace, in fact, just inside the personal best of Angela Tooby, who's currently leading the pack.
Both from the Cardiff Athletics Club, both coached by Anne Hill. And really, from school days onwards, the Tooby twins have been almost literally inseparable. In fact, many times in their athletics careers, they've actually dead heated, crossed the line together. They're not doing that now because that's the first time they'll see the finish post. But of course, there are a total of 3 full laps of this circuit to the finish. Serene Sammy just going through, a little disappointing to see her so near the back, but she does in fact have a heavy cold. No such problems for the Tooby twins. Kirsty McDermott just a little off that leading group, which has now been joined just behind the Toobies by Yvonne Murray. Yvonne Murray wearing number 32 in the white top and dark blue shorts from Edinburgh. Just 20. Winner of the bronze medal in this year's European Indoor Championships over this same distance of 3,000 metres. And Kathy Carter of Sale Harriers in the very distinctive pink strip wearing number 21 on the left-hand side of that picture.
Well, we've got a breakaway group of 5 runners there at this very hot pace as told on the rest of the field, and it's very unlikely that the other people will come back now, so we're down to 5. It's a long run with the wind along this straight, and then they turn to do a short climb and then turn... Sorry, no, it's against the wind here, and it's unusual to see these 2 people leading. If they're going to do all the work, the ones that are lying behind and just relaxing are going to get great advantage. They go up a hill, turn into the hill now, sharp hill, heads down, pushing on up, and then a left turn and a long striding downhill, when you can see them just sort of bending forward slightly to take that hill. Kath Carter on the right-hand side, number 21 in pink.
And those 3, in fact, have made a significant break at this stage. The Toobies and Yvonne Murray. This coming up Montrose Street alongside the Strathclyde University is an incline, and you can probably see the way they're having to use their elbows to work harder going up this slight hill. But then it's the huge relief of a left-hand turn, and downhill they go, down George Street, past the Queen Street station, one of the famous Glasgow landmarks. And Yvonne Murray here has put in a burst which has really spread the field, and even indeed at the 2 kilometre mark, the 2 Tooby twins looking as though they're struggling to hang on at this stage.
Well, yes, Yvonne Murray passed the 2 kilometres in 5:56.6, and this is certainly the first decisive break with Yvonne Murray going here. The 2nd kilometre is slightly slower than the first, 2:59.7, but no question, you can see there from the way the race has opened up that the pace has speeded up very considerably now.
So they're into the final 800-metre circuit of this Glasgow city centre loop, and certainly Yvonne Murray looking very, very strong at this stage. The former United Kingdom 5,000 metres champion, coached by a gentleman called Gentleman, would you believe, Bill Gentleman, a former hammer thrower who used to be Yvonne's biology teacher at school and first noticed her athletic potential. And Yvonne Murray really stretching that gap now between Angela and a slightly failing Susan Tooby in 3rd place, with Kathy Carter, number 21, still 4th. And then at the rear of the picture, Kirsty McDermott, all struggling to stay in touch with this girl, the leader. Yvonne Murray really took to athletics like the proverbial fish to water, and was so keen on her training and her competition that her mother used to worry that although she ate an awful lot, she never seemed to put on any weight. Both her grandfathers used to take part in the Highland Games, that world-famous Scottish sporting event. So a real sporting background for Yvonne Murray, who's looking in terrific form here now. And Angela Tooby, some 30 to 40 metres adrift, as she throws herself almost round that corner. Angela Tooby back in 2nd place. But look at the grimacing, look at the pain on Yvonne Murray's face. She's really gone out bravely, she's gone out early, and perhaps it's beginning to tell And perhaps Kathy Carter, number 21 now, who's come through into second place, might be able to draw back that gap. But Tooby still there with Carter, and this the uphill stretch run.
Well, she's looking, I mean, she must have the finish in sight now. She's looking really relaxed. She's got some downhill running to do, and she must know from the sort of shouts for the spectators that the other runners behind her that she's got quite a good lead.
But a marvellous picture of the pain that Yvonne Murray must be feeling. It's hard, and the Edinburgh girl, followed by Angela Tooby, and Kathy Carter now third, with Susan Tooby back in fourth place. The Edinburgh girl, Yvonne Murray, getting a marvellous reception on the streets of Glasgow, the rival city, and Yvonne Murray of Edinburgh waves to the crowd, and she's won it. Yvonne Murray, a very, very impressive race to finish second ahead of Angela Tooby. Kathy Carter comes in third, with Susan Tooby fourth. Kirsty McDermott back in fifth place. Mary Cotton, who came through late, the sister of that famous figure of the 60s and 70s, Ian Stewart, coming through into sixth place. Jill Clark just finishing 8th or 9th. And a marvellous performance, really, by Yvonne Murray, whose track personal best for this distance is 8 minutes 58. And who, until Zola Budd appeared on the scene, had two of the United Kingdom junior records to her credit, over 1,500 metres and 3,000 metres. That's Kathy Carter, number 21 from Sale Harriers, another former United Kingdom 1,500 metres champion. And generous applause from the Glaswegian crowd for the Edinburgh winner.
Yeah, the tail enders just coming in now. We're just seeing someone about to fail to break 10 minutes.
And right at the back of the field,
that's Angela Deegan, who was hit by a BMX bike just before the start.
Yvonne Murray the winner then, Angela Tooby second, and Kathy Carter third.
So a fine victory for Yvonne Murray. We'll be talking to Yvonne in just a moment, and it's going to be the men's turn to negotiate these tight, twisting circuit round this square. Rejoin us here in Glasgow in just a couple of minutes.
I didn't know there was some tough competition. I didn't realise all the girls from the British rankings would come. But being in Glasgow as well does help a little bit in my home ground. So.
And you went for home, I think, after 2 kilometres. It was quite a brave thing for you to do.
I don't normally go that early in a race. I normally wait till the finish. But I felt really good at that stage, and I felt them beginning to slow down a bit because it was windy down the back straight. And so I thought, I'm going to make a break. I better make it now, you know.
And the first time you ever beaten the Toobies, is that right?
Yes, I've always been in their shadow. They're running the UKs last year. So I thought, well, my training's been going really well, so I thought, give it a go, and I'm really pleased with it.
Yeah, well done. And I think an understanding boss has helped your preparation.
Yes, I must thank him especially, as well as my coach and my parents. I thought when I went for the interview, I was a bit weary because my running career was most important to me, but put a shower in for me at lunchtime so I could get running and have no problems whatsoever, really.
Good, and no problems here today. Very well done.
Thank you.
Thanks very much indeed, Yvonne. So Yvonne Murray, a really popular winner, and next we move on to the men's 10 kilometres. The route takes them 1 lap of the square itself and then 11 times round the whole course. It's a pretty open race, but we do have a couple of favourites. Craig Virgin, aged 29, one of America's top road athletes, twice world cross-country champion. He's held the American record at 5 and 10 miles from the Front Runner Club in Illinois and now based in Atlanta, Georgia. Craig, your first road race over here. What are you doing in Glasgow?
Well, I thought that the Gaymers series was going to be exciting when David Bedford phoned me up and later came to visit me and explained that it was going to be a series of city center races. I told him that I was game to come and try, and because we had so many British athletes in America, I told him that I'd balance out the trade just a bit.
Road racing has been a great, successful venture in America, hasn't it? Do you think it could be the same over here?
I know it can be. I know the appeal that it can have for the city, for the spectators, for the television. In America, at first, they scoffed at it. You know, the track experts and aficionados, they thought it was the black sheep of the family. And when we had the boycott problem in 1980, track sort of took a dip for a while, and road racing just kept coming on strong. So I think that it's really quite feasible here for Britain, just like it is in the States.
Tim Hutchings, aged 26, from Crawley in Sussex, a class 5,000 metres man, 4th in LA last year. He's been training in Australia and New Zealand, but hasn't run too many 10Ks. Well, Tim, what about your inexperience at this distance? Could that affect you?
It could do, but people have been talking about my potential over 10K for about 2 or 3 years now, and it's about time I started fulfilling it. And I'm looking forward to it. You know, I really feel that there's a lot of guys here who have got a good record over 10K, and that I am almost the underdog, so to speak, over this distance, so I've got nothing to lose.
You've had a very successful winter, haven't you, over cross-country, and you've been training in New Zealand and Australia. What sort of shape are you in?
I'm very strong, probably lacking a bit of race sharpness, but I sort of see this race as setting the seal of approval on my winter's training. And my best summer's racing is still 10 weeks away. So this is a sort of, as I say, a good end to the winter and a good beginning to the summer.
So Tim Hutchings and Craig Virgin very much the top two, but after the success of Yvonne Murray, I suppose we should look at the Scottish challenge here of Nat Muir and Alistair Hutton. They'll all be off here in Glasgow in just a couple of minutes' time. This quality field is set to go here in Glasgow. Let's rejoin your commentators, Peter Matthews, Ron Hill, and race commentator Alan Parry.
88 men line up in what's the first of this Grand Prix series of 3 road races over the next 5 weekends, and they're chasing total prize money of £45,000. Some of the top names in road racing, both in Great Britain and the United States, in this lineup.
So, the moment.
And they're looking very anxious. The start tape being lifted aside, and away they go. And in addition to those big individual prizes for the first 6 men in each race, the runners will be receiving points over the 3-race series according to their final placings, and at the end of the 3 races those points will be added up to give us the overall winner, and that's a title which carries a special prize and indeed a tremendous incentive for men like Craig Virgin, the top American who we've heard from, as they run by the Glasgow City Chambers, that marvellous building. Craig Virgin, who's already pledged himself to run in all 3 races, and if one man should win all 3 races, then he could collect over £7,000. The early leader is number 133, and that's Steve Harris of Shaftesbury Harriers, who particularly wants to run well today. There he is in the centre of the picture, as injury prevented Steve Harris from running in the Battersea 10-kilometre road race, which you may have seen recently on ITV. But 88 men in this field, and Ron, really, any one of a dozen could win this race.
Yeah, another good, clean start. Steve Harris has got himself out of trouble. He just turned round there to check that the field are with him, and obviously they are with him. There is some incentive for the back markers to keep going as well, because it's a rule of this race, if anybody is lapped, they have to drop out. So those back markers are trying to run as fast as they can, not only to try to get good times, but to actually stay in the race.
The tall, blonde figure of Dave Clark in that bright yellow vest has joined Steve Harris at the head of the field as they complete this first mini-lap, so to speak, of George Square itself. The course exactly the same as that run by the women, only of course longer. This a 10-kilometre race. So the men run a total of 11.5 laps of the 800-metre course. And incidentally, as a real incentive to the back men, as Ron was just mentioning, there is the indignity, if we can call it that, of anyone who's lapped in this field is obliged to drop out. So those men at the rear of the field, as the leaders come into view again, have all the incentive they need to keep going. Steve Harris, who has suffered in recent weeks from a twisted pelvis. It even sounds a painful injury, that. The wear and tear of all the heavy mileage he does in training, as Dave Clark comes to his shoulder and takes over the lead as they're approaching the first kilometre mark. As I was saying, the wear and tear on Steve Harris has caused his pelvis to twist in that way, and he's had to see 6 specialists to try and sort it out.
So there they are, the 1 kilometre, 2:42. So that's a very fast pace indeed that they've started off. Well inside 28-minute pace for a big leading bunch with Nat Muir and Steve Harris prominent there. Also Carl Harrison, Barry Smith of Gateshead. Indeed, Gateshead well to the fore, because this is also a club competition with prizes there, Alan.
Indeed it is, and some very attractive prizes as well. Special cash awards for the top teams in this three-race series. And indeed, with over £7,000 at stake, then Britain's leading clubs have never had such a huge incentive to do well. 13 of our top clubs taking part. Each of them has entered 4 runners, and the first 3 men home will score. And a new leader now, and something of a surprise perhaps, number 154. There he is, Paul O'Callaghan. The green and white that he sports is of his club Tipton Harriers, Paul O'Callaghan. Although you won't be surprised to hear either that he's a Southern Irish international. Steve Harris still second, then Nat Muir in the headband. No sign as yet of Craig Virgin or John Tuttle, the other American, or indeed of Tim Hutchings, as Paul O'Callaghan, the 20-year-old former 3A's junior champion over 5,000 metres, sets the pace with Steve Harris close in contention, wearing the black and white stripes of Shaftesbury Harriers, and just glancing over his shoulder, number 41 on the left-hand side of the picture there in the blue and white hoops is Steve Binns, and on the extreme left, wearing what I can only describe as an enthusiastic haircut, is Colin Reach, the tall figure all in dark, number 17, better known of course as a steeplechaser. But O'Callaghan the leader, Harris is second, Binns is third, and on the inside, just shielded from view by O'Callaghan, is Nat Muir. And there's Tim Hutchings, incidentally, our first sight of him since the start of the race, wearing number 12.
Paul O'Callaghan's got a good lead here, rather foolishly, I think, to go away this early in the race, but I think, you know, when you get very nervous and get very hyped up, the tendency is to sort of run away as hard as you can and throw caution to the wind to a certain extent. They're now running downhill, and I think you'll see the pursuing pack start to spread out a little bit because there's not the same necessity to shelter from the wind. We can see in that leading pack there, to the right-hand side of it, number 5, the man with the headband, Mike Bishop.
And they're coming up now to the 2,000-metre point. Yes, there it is. And that time, 5 minutes 27.6. Well, that's extraordinarily fast. That's, again, well inside 28-minute pace. Indeed, it's sort of almost world record pace. I don't think they're necessarily going to sustain that. We probably expected them to go off quickly to sort themselves out on the very tight bends. They're obviously not wanting to be bunching up too much around that. Interesting to see, though, whether they can maintain this pace, because there are still a very large number of men in contention, as Paul O'Callaghan leads, with Steve Binns of Bingley now second.
So it's O'Callaghan in the lead. Binns is in second place. Harris is third. Muir, I think, just forcing his way through into 4th place. And also on the inside there, wearing number 110, the minute figure almost compared to those around him, of Billy D. There he is in the yellow vest and the red shorts, number 110, Billy D from Luton.
Billy D's on some quite good form at the moment. Last weekend he ran the fastest short leg of the 12-stage relay, and it's going to be interesting to see whether he can keep going after 3 miles and put in a good 10,000-metre race, which is twice as far as his run last week. To the left of the screen, just disappeared now. Yep, Barry Smith, one of the great Gateshead team that's here at the moment, wearing white shorts, white vest with a red band.
Interesting to see in this team race, in fact, because there is Tipton Harriers, who, and you referred to the 3A's 12-stage relay, because Tipton were the winners of that, and Gateshead also well to the fore, and those are going to be 2 of the clubs featuring today.
Still number 41, Steve Binns, leads the field. Used to be a pig breeder, incidentally, Steve Binns. Currently unemployed, although currently employed in dragging this 80-strong field round at still what is a very impressive pace indeed. And I suppose this type of course with the sharp 90-degree bends leads to this kind of racing. And the 2 red vests at the rear of the field that you can see are the Americans, Tuttle and Craig Virgin. And certainly those 2 will not be happy about the weather today. In fact, Craig Virgin was telling me before the race that he's just come from 80-degree temperatures back home where he lives in Atlanta, Georgia. And I don't know, it must be in the low 50s, if that, here in Glasgow today. I suppose you could call it a typically British summer's day. Number 80 in the centre of the picture, Barry Smith from Gateshead, the famous Gateshead colours, the all white with the red band. And also moving through now, number 150, Tony Milisaroff of Tipton. But now the Americans beginning to make their challenge. That's Craig Virgin with his number in tatters already. But still a very, very closely bunched field. A variety of leaders, and nobody, despite the quick pace, prepared to strike out just yet.
Well, again, down with the wind, they've spread out on the inside of the course, number 140, wearing maroon shorts, Carl Harrison from Stretford AC. Looking quite grim-faced, but that's normally the way he runs. And Billy D, who we said has got good credentials over 3 miles, has now taken the lead.
And it seems that Billy D might want to slow things up a little, because there was a definite change of gear, a definite slowing of pace, though as you can see from our camera alongside the runners, the speed is still very, very impressive. Number 3, the blonde-haired figure of John Richards, youngster from Cornwall, a part of the country that doesn't or hasn't produced many top-quality athletes over the years. But still, Billy D, number 110, the leader. Tony Milisaroff, wearing 150 in the green and white hoops of Tipton Harriers, also to the fore. Barry Smith, number 80, the tall figure of Dave Clark, number 2, and Jeff Turnbull, number 82, now on the left-hand side of the picture, like Smith, from Gateshead.
Still a really huge bunch there. A couple of Bella Houston Harriers wearing navy blue, representing sort of the local teams. Right in the middle of them, Peter Fleming and George Braidwood, going very, very well at the moment. So it's all very, very tactical.
Colin Reeks, just on the right-hand side of the picture, Ron. He's something of a character in the sport. He ran disappointingly in the Battersea 10-kilometre road race. He has the massive talent, there's no doubt about that, but it's sometimes a question of attitude with him, I think. He certainly seems to have the right attitude today. Number 17 on the left-hand side there, Colin Reeks.
He looks quite ungainly, and he's running to the side of the field all along. It's probably to try to keep out of trouble and see what's going on. He is covering that huge bunch of what must be 20 people. The unknown factors in there, as well as Craig Virgin, we have John Tuttle, who in fact is more well known as a marathon runner. He was 3rd in their Olympic trial to Pete Pitzinger and Salazar, but we'll have to wait to see how he fares over 10,000 metres.
And looking down sternly on the scene, James Oswald, former MP for Glasgow in the 1830s, one of 12 statues dotted around George Square, which is regarded as the very centre of Glasgow. It lies somewhere between the famous Sauchiehall Street, the longest street in Glasgow, and the River Clyde. And still, number 82, Jeff Turnbull, the leader. We must have had 5 or 6 different leaders already at this stage. Number 3, John Richards, and they're coming up to the 4-kilometre point.
Yes, 4 kilometres, and the time clock stops there at 11 minutes 11.7. Well, that's interesting because, as we surmised, the pace has in fact slowed quite substantially. They're now just about on 28-minute pace exactly, but the second 2 kilometres was much slower than the first.
And Tim Hutchings is somewhere down in about 13th or 14th position and not looking particularly comfortable. Tim Hutchings, who it's been predicted he'll become a truly great 5,000-metre runner. He ran splendidly in the Olympic Games in Los Angeles to finish 4th. And as we approach the halfway point, I wonder just what Tim Hutchings will be thinking. Well, he told us about his race tactics and his thoughts at this stage.
At 5 kilometres, that's the halfway stage in the race. I'd like to think there'll still be a large pack. I'd be surprised if anybody wants to pull away that early in the race. And the standard of the runners in the race, the top 50, 100 guys, is very high. It'll be difficult for anybody to pull away early. Even if they try to do that, I think they'd get a load of guys committing suicide by hanging on to them for the 3 or 4 miles. So at 5 kilometres, I think most people will be playing cage again. Certainly I wouldn't want to be making any move that early.
And certainly he isn't. Perhaps he can't. But he's right. Tim Hutchings' prediction that nobody would be looking to break away, absolutely bang on. Number 42, Colin Moore of Bingley, just one of still a dozen or more men in contention at this stage. Number 22 in the red American vest is John Tuttle. And they go once more beneath the splendid sight of Glasgow City Chambers. A much photographed building, recognised as one of the finest civic buildings in Britain.
And we're on the route now of the Glasgow Marathon, which is going to be held on September the 22nd. Glasgow is becoming quite a centre for athletics. And on that day, Bob Dalglish already has 18,500 entries for the race. I hope to be running there myself, so I've been having a particularly good look at this course today, and hopefully that will be my 99th marathon. But it's interesting to watch the tactics of a race like this when you've got a course on which on one side there's a headwind and the other side a tailwind. People running in the group sort of wonder why everybody's going so slowly when they're actually sitting in there, and that's why runners keep going into the lead. Tuttle made a break into the lead thinking, well, why are they just relaxing like this? He found out as soon as he got into that headwind and very quickly went back in there into the group.
And they're very near now to the halfway stage in the race, the 5 kilometres. Just over 14 minutes. There's the sign for the 5 kilometre for that leading pack. 14 minutes 3 seconds. So they have now settled into a much more regular rhythm after that very fast start. The leading group, 14 minutes 3. Interesting to see 3 Gateshead runners up there. There's Jeff Turnbull, number 82. Also up there, Barry Smith and Kevin Forster, the marathon runner. Barry Smith there lying 6th on the back of that group. So Gateshead certainly at the moment leading in the team competition.
And Tim Hutchings is nowhere to be seen in this leading group at the moment, and that's a grave disappointment for him. Perhaps he wasn't really race sharp, perhaps he wasn't really race fit. He spent a couple of months down in New Zealand and Australia, warm weather training and competition as well. But it looks as though on the day he hasn't got the sharpness to match the rest of this field.
The 2 Americans are sitting in somewhere near the back. Craig Virgin, they have to sort of suffer a little bit from jet lag because they didn't arrive too long ago. They've only been in town a day. But Virgin's quite a flamboyant character. He has his own company. He has won a race in Atlanta, Georgia, called the Peachtree Race 3 times, and it gives him a lot of publicity. But his own company actually printed a T-shirt and started to sell them by mail order, and it said, "I chased a virgin around Peachtree." So he's that kind of a guy.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that kind of a guy, Ron, but I think I see what you mean.
Well, he blows his own trumpet. He's not going to be blowing any trumpets at the moment, but he's not looking too happy either. But again, as you see, as we come down with the wind, the field spreads out horizontally because there's no obstruction, there's no wind blowing them back. And we'll probably see a new leader as they go around the corner.
But a very distinctive group has broken clear now, and Steve Harris, who we haven't seen figuring in the top few for some time, number 133 in the black and white stripes, has rejoined that leading group. Number 82, nearest to the camera as he went by, was Jeff Turnbull. Number 42, Colin Moore, who you can, well, he's just out of sight at the moment. Number 140, Carl Harrison on the left-hand side of the picture from Stretford Harriers. And in the centre, the blonde figure of the 20-year-old John Richards from Cornwall.
And one runner we haven't mentioned yet, there on the right-hand side of the screen wearing number 4 and big bath on his red, white and blue vest is Nigel Gates. In some very good company at the moment. Colin Reitz has dropped off the pack, we can see it from that long shot. And Nat Muir sort of glancing around to see who's in that bunch. They'll all be sort of weighing each other up now. Steve Harris again just glancing to his right, seeing who's still in there and seeing who's dropped off the back.
They're approaching the 6 kilometre point.
It's good to see Barry Smith there too, who's had so much problem with injuries, but really looking in good shape there. And he's on the extreme, right in front of us on the picture, wearing number 80 in the Gateshead colours, next to Carl Harrison and John Richards and Jeff Turnbull, again Gateshead. So Gateshead going well, and of course 2 Bingley runners up there too, Steve Binns and Colin Moore also, and they passed the 6 kilometre point in about 16:50. So maintaining a fairly steady pace at the moment, with nobody yet having made a decisive break.
Turnbull leads them through then. Carl Harrison, number 140, second place. Then it's Barry Smith on the right-hand side of the picture wearing 80. And Craig Virgin will be relieved to see that Tim Hutchings is nowhere to be seen in that leading group, because I know that Craig looked at Tim as one of his most likely rivals. And now we're going to see, as the runners get some idea of exactly where they are geographically, we're going to see another man who knows where he is geographically, because what number is he? 104. Anthony Hughes of Liverpool Harriers has the distinction of being the first man lapped. I can't quite see him, but I do believe he has stepped off the course and obeyed instructions to withdraw from the race. But it just shows you really the quality of this field, because they're all very good runners, they're all capable of good times, and yet already, with just over 6 kilometres gone, a man has been lapped. And the crowd, young and old alike, not enjoying the weather, but enjoying the race. And another runner not enjoying the prospect of being lapped, surely. Nigel Gates, number 4, whose wife Julia ran in the women's race earlier, is the leader. In fact, he and his wife, something of a, I'm not sure if it's unique, but certainly an unusual distinction. They're both Avon cross-country champions in Bath in the West Country. Nigel Gates, number 4 there. Number 41 is Steve Binns. Number 140 on the left-hand side of the picture is Carl Harrison. And then the red vest of number 22, John Tuttle of the United States of America. And there's Tim Hutchings, and he's some way down the field, and he must be disappointed in this run. A lot's been expected of Tim this summer. He had a marvellous cross-country season, winning major races in Gateshead and Ipswich. But as Gates maintains his lead, Tim Hutchings is way back off that leading group now.
Interesting to see, we also saw just behind Tim Hutchings, just fleetingly, Julian Goter, another great name, Commonwealth bronze medalist at 10,000 metres in 1982. He too is finding the sharpness of this race too much for him.
And number 228, Tom Lucas, looks aghast as he sees the leading bunch come through, and he too is lapped, and he too drops out.
They just passed 7,000 metres, so just 3,000 metres, a little less than 2 miles to go now. And still maintaining this steady pace, which should bring them in a time of somewhere around 28:15. That's the sort of pace they're running out at the moment.
Number 4, Nigel Gates, the leader then. And still the 2 red vests of the United States of America prominent in that leading bunch. And one of them, of course, the man who rightly has the reputation of the top road runner in the United States, Craig Virgin. What will he be feeling at this point of the race?
At 8K, I think we'll be building up momentum. I would look for a time shortly around 23 minutes, a little bit above, a little bit under, depending upon if someone has spent a winter in New Zealand and is in much better shape than what they led on. Obviously, some of us that have been in a colder weather don't have the speed work yet, but I think for sure by 8K we'll start to see the real contenders. It'll probably be down to about a handful of 5 athletes, and from then on it will be a real foot race over the last 2 kilometers to see who has the best speed this early in the season.
A real foot race, he said. Well, whatever the phraseology, you know what he means. He means we're in for quite some finish. And that's Craig Virgin, who you can see just towards the back of the picture as Nigel Gates is still the leader. Craig Virgin running almost alongside his United States teammate John Tuttle, the second of the 2 red American vests at the moment. Craig referring to Tim Hutchings, perhaps not giving away just how fit or sharp he was. Well, judging by Tim's position, he was certainly telling the truth when he said he wasn't really ready for a race of this calibre.
Well, Gates really split that field apart for a short while, but he's back into the headwind, and they've closed up completely now. It's getting to be more the cyclist tactic here later in the race when bodies are getting tired, and in fact they're almost running single file, sheltering from the wind behind each runner in front.
And it really is windy today. I was saying that Craig Virgin has left 80-degree temperatures back home in Atlanta, Georgia. Well, he ought to be grateful in a way, because just a week ago here in Scotland, over at Dundee, they had a marathon. It snowed, and 2 of the runners were treated for hypothermia, would you believe? So at least he's got the comparative warmth of 50-degree temperatures today.
Carl Harrison, number 140 there with the maroon shorts, is really suffering. You can tell by the look on his face. But somebody who must be suffering more is number 220, Nat Muir, who's gone from on the shoulder of the sort of leading runners to the back of the pack now.
Yes, Nat Muir also been used to warmer weather. He's been training in Portugal recently. 8 kilometres coming up for the leaders.
Yes, just 2,000 metres to go then. Well, 22 minutes 39. That means they're on about 28:15 pace. In fact, they're almost identical to the pace that we saw Jack Buckner winning 3 weeks ago in Battersea, the 3A's 10 kilometres. He won then in 28:13. Their pace at the moment indicates they're going to be around that time, and still about 10 runners well in contention.
Well, Ron, are you a betting man? Would you like to hazard a guess who out of this tightly knit field has the strength, the speed, the stamina?
Well, they all keep having a go. It's Steve Binn's turn now to stretch the leaders, but Dave Clark has seen the danger and quickly covered the group, as have John Tuttle, John Richards, Colin Moore, and Craig Virgin appears to be in trouble. He's past Nat Muir, but he seems to be losing that vital 3 or 4 yards, which is the sort of invisible string that keeps somebody onto the leading group. He keeps taking big breaths to Steve Binns, relaxing, just getting that big shot of oxygen down into the lungs. Now he's going into the wind again, so it's in the others' interest to sort of get as close as they can behind him and sort of shelter from that wind.
So the leader, number 41, Steve Binns. In second place, number 4 is Nigel Gates. That's Binns. In third place at the moment in the red vest of the United States is John Tuttle. And then the tall, very distinctive blonde figure of Dave Clark, with John Richards, also blonde, in the blue shorts, wearing number 3, still prominent in that group of what now has been whittled down to something like half a dozen men. Richards with that very upright stance, a strange running style really, just 20 years of age, as I was saying before, and from Redruth in Cornwall. It must be very difficult, Ron, for a runner from that part of the world to get the necessary competition, really. He has to travel a long way from Cornwall to find the right type of competition.
Yeah, and when you're a young kid, it's also very expensive to have to do that. So he is a pretty unique athlete to be able to put it together and be a top athlete as he is in such a faraway corner of the British Isles.
That's number 3, John Richards. Dave Clark now coming to the fore. I remember seeing him earlier this winter at Milton Keynes in just about the most appalling conditions imaginable in the National Cross Country Championships, leading for much of the race and then finding himself overtaken, as quite a few people have this year, by Dave Lewis, who won the National. But Clark, now the leader in the yellow vest, wearing number 2, the blonde hair and the beard, one of Britain's best cross-country runners, and a kilometre to go, he's gone to the head of the field.
Yes, here comes a decisive move, 1 kilometre to go, so just a lap and a bit to go, and now the race is really on. Interesting to see 2 former European junior 5,000 metre champions in there, Steve Binns and Jonathan Richards. Another, Nat Muir, has dropped off, but now it's all a question of who can produce the fastest finish. And if you look at that group, then there's one man who stands out on the basis of his fastest mile. He's a 3:56 miler, and that's Dave Clark, the tall figure in yellow.
And Craig Virgin, clearly, as James Watt might say, has run out of steam at this stage, because he has fallen away from that group. And it's just John Tuttle now carrying American hopes, number 22. On his inside is Dave Clark. Steve Binns is still there. John Richards is still there. Carl Harrison's still there. And so too is Nigel Gates. And as Craig Virgin was saying, this could be some foot race over the final kilometre. The leadership has changed hands so often that it would be a brave man who would hazard a guess as to who is going to win this race now. Tremendous excitement building up around George Square then. They're into the final lap. Steve Binns, number 41, the leader. Number 3 is John Richards. 22 on the inside, John Tuttle. And Dave Clark, number 2. Tuttle, the American, who finished second in the Boston Marathon a couple of weeks ago, behind Jeff Smith of Great Britain. Ran the Olympic marathon but didn't finish, so maybe surprising to see him having the speed to be up with these men who are more accustomed to running much shorter distances. So we really are now into the incline which will take them into the final downhill stretch, and Clark is beginning to stretch out. Dave Clark makes what could be his bid for victory. He's had a few competitive runs this year which have shown his tenacity, which you can see perfectly displayed there. On the track at 10,000 metres, he's beaten the likes of world and Olympic champion Alberto Cova of Italy in his most notable win of all. Under 300 metres to go, and Dave Clark has the look of determination that says, I'm going to win this one. And if those back runners will move aside, It'll make his path to victory that much easier. John Richards coming through strongly. Looks as though he's going to take second place, but it's going to be Clark. And what a satisfying victory it will be. But Dave Clark of Hercules Wimbledon. John Richards finished second. John Tuttle was third. I think it was Steve Binns in fourth place. And then coming through for fifth was Colin Moore, and sixth place Carl Harrison. And remember, all first 6 finishers win prize money. But Dave Clark of Hercules Wimbledon, who has so often been overshadowed on cross-country where they don't get a lot of publicity, and you can still see an awful lot of men still to finish. And also on the track, Dave Clark now has one of his most notable major victories under his belt. In a race to the finish, as the runners still think, remember, of their club positions. You can see that the competitiveness is there, even down amongst the 30 and 40 mark, as they finish looking for higher places to gain points for their club and that big prize. And there's Dave Clark, the winner, and there's Tim Hutchings, the man who was expected to be a contender for one of the leading 3 places. And he must be, what, something like a minute down on the winner's time. Ron.
Yeah, marvellous race. Laurie Spence just going through there from the Scottish club. A marvellous race, absolutely fantastic. Julian Gorter coming through, Andy Holden, Dave Bedford with his arm round, Tim Hutchings, Eddie Herridge behind him. Everybody glad that it's over and glad for a rest and maybe a glass of that cider.
So, a race that has been thoroughly enjoyed by competitors and spectators alike. And a race that has given us a worthy winner, I'm sure, because with the leadership changing hands so often, you can see the pain that it's caused some runners. But Dave Clark was not one of those. He kept going to the end, and he has deserved that victory richly. John Richards, just 20 from Cornwall, a marvellous second place. John Tuttle was third, and Gateshead Harriers the team prize.
So a really tough race, and here's our winner, looking very calm and relaxed already, Dave. A good tactical battle, really, wasn't it?
Yes, very enjoyable, indeed. A lot of people did a lot of work amongst themselves, and really it was a very fine race, most enjoyable.
What was the really significant moment from your point of view?
Crossing the line, finishing, and preferably first. Yes, really, it's all about getting to the start of the last lap and then seeing who's there and then trying to beat them. And it started speeding up with about 3 or 4 laps to go, though it was a pretty fine pace all the way through.
You might, in your career, have suffered from lack of recognition. How much do you feel you needed this sort of victory?
At this point in my career, yes, it's very nice to win something which is quite major again. I've won quite a few races, but I've been second an awful lot more.
And you've also had your fair share of injuries, haven't you?
Yes, I've been a little unlucky. Every January for the last 3 years now, I've lost 3 weeks at least, which for a cross-country runner like myself and an aspiring track runner is a bit of a shame, because it knocks out a period of your training when you're trying to change from quantity and steady running through to speed endurance work, running faster, and preparing for the really fast big races.
Well, you seem to have done and prepared pretty well for this one. I'll let you now collect your spoils, as it were.
Thank you.
From Lynn Hughes, marketing manager of the sponsors Gaymers, and also with him, of course, is Yvonne Murray.
Very good race.
Well, they tell me the city's motto here is let Glasgow flourish, and Glasgow's got our series off to a flourishing start today. Next weekend at the same time on Channel 4, 6:15, we go to Cardiff, and what a battle there should be there between Steve Jones, winner of the London Marathon, and the man who ran so well at Battersea last month, Jack Buckner. That'll be at the same time next week in Cardiff. From us all here in Glasgow, good night. Dave Clark's victory in Glasgow, the first leg of a treble that could earn him more than £7,000.
Under 300 metres to go, and Dave Clark has the look of determination that says, I'm going to win this one. And if those back runners will move aside, it'll make his path to victory that much easier. John Richards coming through strongly. Looks as though he's going to take second place, but it's going to be Clark. And what a satisfying victory it will be.
Welcome to Cardiff, surely one of the most picturesque city centres you'll find anywhere in Britain. Stage 2 then of this Gaymers series that's really taking athletics to the people. Hello and good evening to you. We have a bitterly cold day here in Cardiff. If you weren't with us in Glasgow last week, let me just remind you it's 10 kilometres for the men and 3 kilometres for the women, and a great incentive for the best club side as well. Well, with me, I'm delighted to have the greatest Welsh athlete of them all, no exaggeration there really, Lynn Davis. Lynn, you must be well pleased with what's happening in your city today.
Tremendous, Jim. It's a great concept to have the best athletes in Britain come right to the middle of Cardiff, because athletics now is probably one of the most popular television sports. People see these people on television, and for them to see them in the flesh running here is a great occasion.
And despite the fact that we're all wrapped up pretty well here, the Welsh people have responded very well.
That doesn't matter, I don't think. I think the runners enjoy the atmosphere, the people enjoy being close to the runners, and it just generates a lot of excitement and a lot of atmosphere, and I'm looking forward to some good races.
Lynn, thanks very much indeed. Smashing to see you. Well, it's the women to go first, 3 complete circuits of this track. It's fast and flat, very different though to the one we had in Glasgow last week, but they do have a very quick finishing straight here. That's wind permitting, of course. Well, last week, Yvonne Murray from Edinburgh was a very popular winner in Glasgow, but with me now is Chrissy Boxer, and Chrissy, shivering a bit, a real contrast for you.
Yes, I've just come back from America, and the last few weeks I was in Florida, so it was in the 85s and really hot, so this is a bit of a shock to the system.
Now, I think you watched Yvonne's victory last week and worked out how you're going to run the race today.
Well, I think I don't run the 3,000 as often as some of the other girls. My strength is perhaps my finishing speed. So I would imagine they'll probably dictate the tactics and try and run it hard so that they can run their legs off me. So I've just got to really concentrate on staying up with them. And I think around about 2 kilometres would be a crucial stage. I'll have to really concentrate on working hard to keep with them.
What sort of winter have you had over in Florida?
Well, it's been really good. I've spent time in different parts of America. I've got a really understanding boss in Brendan Foster who gave me the time off to go to America, which has been great for me. And the last few weeks, it was nice to be able to do some faster track work in the warmth.
And from your point of view, what would be success in today's race?
Well, every athlete's never happy unless they win, and I've had a few good races in America, so I'm hoping to be very competitive, and I'll be hoping to be there. And if I'm there with the last sort of 600, I think I might have them a bit worried, so...
Hoping to stay warm as well, eh?
Yes.
Well, you're not seeing double. These are the Tooby twins. Let's come to Angela first. Angela, how can we tell you apart today?
I won't say one's going to be faster than the other because we don't know. But I'm wearing the red shorts and Susan's going to be wearing blue shorts today. So that'd be the vital difference.
Susan, I'm sure you must have 1 or 2 tales about people confusing the pair of you.
Well, it's happened quite a lot. Not so much in recent times, but one of my best runs, I thought my best run was in Birmingham on a rerun, and one of the commentators sort of said afterwards, oh, Susan, and she was the one that dropped out, and I was there all the time, and I thought, oh, if that's how they're not going to tell a difference, then, you know, perhaps it's not so good being the same.
Do you help each other during races?
We try to, yes, we try. I think more as a support rather than, you know, or to psych out the opposition, thinking, you know, we're a team. Well, hopefully it works like that.
And below Cardiff Castle, round the superb Curtes Park, the women's race is underway here in the Welsh capital. We join commentator Alan Parry.
And they've got just a little over 2 laps or 2 kilometres to go. This course, almost exactly half a mile round, and you can see from those pictures just how picturesque and scenic it is. And you can also see how closely bunched this field of 30-odd ladies are. It really is a highly competitive distance and a highly competitive field. Christina Boxer, who we've already heard from, and the Toobies, prominent in that leading group. Though it's Carol Haig of Holmfirth, wearing number 26 in the yellow top and the black shorts, who's the leader. Though the Toobies on the inside, and Yvonne Murray, wearing number 32, last week's winner, also there, with just a kilometre completed.
And the time there, about 3 minutes 6 seconds. So, in fact, it's rather slower, much slower than last week. Perhaps an effect of the very strong wind conditions here.
Number 10, Susan Tooby, all in blue, is the leader, with Carol Haig in second place, then Yvonne Murray and Christina Boxer beginning to show too in fourth place at the moment. Susan Tooby of the Cardiff Athletics Clubs, just like twin sister Angela, though strangely enough this is a new experience because although they run for Cardiff, would you believe they've never run in Cardiff before? Club fixtures are mainly held at Cwmbran, so a new experience for the Tooby twins, running in the city they now represent. It's number 10, Susan Tooby, still the leader. 21, Kathy Carter, who was prominent in last week's race, in which she finished third. And there you can see in the centre of the picture, number 32, Yvonne Murray, last week's winner, and Angela Tooby coming up to join her sister Susan. Ron Hill.
Yes, Angela's got into the lead into quite a strong wind, and it will be a tactical race here. We've got the longer distance runners, the cross-country runners, lined up against the track specialists, the 1,500-metre runners, on sort of medium ground.
Well, Christina Boxer has just come from something like an 8-month trip to the United States of America. She's not really ready, she was saying, for this kind of distance. She's more suited to the lower distances of 800, 1,500 metres and a mile. But how will she be feeling at this stage of the race? She told us a while ago.
Well, I think as it approaches the 2-kilometre mark, I'm hoping to have settled in, and by that stage I'll be concentrating on just staying with the leading group. I think it will probably narrow down to sort of 4 or 5 people by then. And then I've got to really work on concentrating for that last kilometre, because I think I've got some good speed behind me, so if I can be there at the end of the race, then I should be able to use my kick.
And she may well have to use that kick very soon, because a group of 5 girls, with Kathy Carter now just falling off the back of them slightly, have moved away from the rest of the pack. Number 9 is Angela Tooby. There, wearing number 42, is Christina Boxer, we've just heard from. And number 29, Julianne Lawton of Derby Ladies, who was 8th in the race in Glasgow last week, in a personal best time for her of 9 minutes and 15 seconds. And it looks as though those 5, and indeed Julianne Lawton now beginning to feel the pace, so it may be narrowed down to 4. The Tooby twins, Yvonne Murray, number 32, on the left-hand side of the camera, and Christina Boxer with a kilometre to go.
And the pace has definitely speeded up quite a lot there, 6 minutes 0.5, so a much, much faster second kilometre, as the Tooby twins in particular have forced the pace.
Very brave running from the Tooby twins. They're not going to hang around and run a tactical race themselves. They're not going to sit in and try to shelter from the wind. Very, very aggressive running from this pair. And Yvonne Murray just sitting in nicely now against the wind, taking a ride, and Chrissy Boxer there, poised, waiting to strike if she could get near enough to home to use that formidable sprint finish.
So they come round the corner again, and it's Susan Tooby, who very rarely manages to beat her sister Angela, though some people feel that perhaps she has slightly better acceleration. But Angela's the one who mostly wins the big races. But it's Susan Tooby in the blue shorts leading at the moment. Angela Tooby running alongside her. This is something they do so often. They've dead heated in so many races. But at the moment, it's Susan Tooby slightly ahead. Then in the centre of the picture, Yvonne Murray, number 32, and nearest to the camera, number 9, Angela Tooby. Yvonne Murray with the considerable advantage of last week's win behind her. The confidence of that victory has enabled her now to spread away, and only Christina Boxer has gone with her. And it looks as though one of the Toobys, at least Angela, might be struggling to stay with this pace. Susan Tooby the leader, but Yvonne Murray leads. Christina Boxer, though, looking in good shape behind her and matching that sprint.
Yes, Yvonne's sort of striding away now. She realises maybe that she hasn't got a sprinter's finish at the end, and she's got to make it very, very hard for Chrissy Boxer before they get to the final straight. And it is a really good straight. The road is level. There are no jinxes in it. They can see the finish when they come round that final corner. And if Chrissy can sit in a lot longer, it's going to be a terrific sprint at the end.
Christina Boxer, Britain's best female distance runner in the last few seasons. She really has a formidable record. The first British woman to beat 2 minutes for 800 metres. The Commonwealth Games 1,500 metres champion. 6th in Los Angeles. And now it's Christina Boxer who's gone to the lead. And Yvonne Murray beginning to feel the pain. But we saw a similar expression on her face a week ago. She feels it It's hard, but still she had, in Glasgow, the finishing sprint she needed to win. But can she match Christina Boxer? Back in this country after such a long time in the United States of America, and obviously benefiting from that American experience. Christina Boxer looking good for victory at this stage, but Yvonne Murray still close enough to strike. But Murray struggling now, I think, and it looks as though it's going to be Boxer's race. And this marvellous turnout here in Cardiff city centre, cheering her home the final few metres, and it's Boxer who wins it. Yvonne Murray is second, and the Tooby twins fighting for third place, and it's Angela who gets there just ahead of Susan, who's fourth. So a marvellous run then by Christina Boxer. She holds 4 United Kingdom records from 800 metres to a mile. Yvonne Murray, great points for her, of course, the winner a week ago and second place this week. And Yvonne Murray must be feeling that if Christina Boxer hadn't been around, it was a race she might well have won again.
Well, we saw the sprinter sitting in and then really kicking for home down the home straight there. Yvonne Murray, very courageous, sort of striding out there, but without that sort of final kick that's needed to win races like this.
So a nice picture of the winner from Glasgow a week ago, Yvonne Murray, number 32, and this week's winner, number 42.
Is a great run, really, by Chrissy Boxer. All that training in Florida has paid off, and we'll be hearing from Chrissy very shortly. By Chrissy Boxer. Let's just get confirmation of that result now from Peter Matthews.
Here's Boxer's winning time there, 8 minutes 54 seconds. A fine time after a slow start. Second, Yvonne Murray, 8:56, and third, Angela Tooby, 8 minutes 59 seconds. So that means that after 2 races in the 3-race series Grand Prix, Yvonne Murray leading 199 points, Angela Tooby second, 197, and today Susan Tooby fourth and Kath Carter fifth, so they're third equal in the Grand Prix with 194 points.
Well, Chrissy, very well done indeed. I think you thought your pace was going to be decisive, and that's the way it turned out.
Yes, but I think I went a little bit too soon, but as it didn't matter. But I came around that last bend, and it's like coming off the last bend of the track. And I went, and I thought, oh, it's much further than 100 metres, and that last bit seemed to go forever. But I'm really pleased, because it was hard, because the first lap was a bit slower. There's a lot of pushing and bumping, and I had to run very wide just to get up there. So it wound up, and that middle lap was fast.
One stage, it looked as though Yvonne was going to repeat her victory. When did you think you were really going to catch her and get past her?
Well, I could see her trying to get past the tubers on the back straight. She was on the inside, so I guessed she was going to go. And the unfortunate thing is, because that's what she did last week, I was ready for it. And it really hurt to go with it, you know, but I thought, well, if I don't, she'll get away like last week. And then sometimes when you see the finish, you find that extra something. I was really pleased.
OK, very well done indeed.
Thank
Super
you.
Race. Good.
I didn't think I stood much chance after the interview because I thought you were going to put the jinx after last week.
You've broken our duck.
Yeah.
Good, Chrissy, well done. OK, so Chrissy Boxer goes home victorious, and now it's time for the men's 10K. Well, if we thought we had a strong field last week in Glasgow, it's even better this time round, and we have some notable additions. Well, last week, Dave Clark was our first winner in Glasgow. Today, he faces the likes of Steve Jones, age 29, the second fastest marathoner of all time. And also Jack Buckner, age 23. Jack, the first domestic winner on ITV just a few weeks ago in that 10K at Battersea. Well, Jack, are you likely to repeat that one today, do you think?
I don't know. I've been watching all your interviews you've had with different people, and so far everyone who's been interviewed hasn't run very well in the race. So I've been a bit worried about doing this interview, so I hope I don't run as badly as some of the other people who've been interviewed.
We call it the kiss of death, actually, yeah, Jack. But I think it might take a bit more than talking to me to slow you down today, Steve, particularly here in Cardiff.
That's right. Really, it's on home ground today, so I'll be out there giving it as all I've got.
You had the London Marathon, of course, shortly after Battersea. How long does it take you to get a marathon out of your legs?
Well, I felt as if I'd recovered almost straight away. I didn't get stiff or any sore feet or anything. And I carried on my training. I've only missed one day since then. This will really be the sort of really find out exactly how much it's taken out of me.
Steve's got over 1,500 metres. Although Dave Clark's finishing burst in Glasgow proved that he too has the acceleration to handle a quick finish if it comes to that. Dave Clark number 2. Jonathan Richards, number 3, the blonde-haired figure in the blue shorts. They were 1 and 2 in Glasgow a week ago, and still up there with them at this stage, John Woods of Liverpool Harriers in the yellow vest and the dark shorts, number 108.
And we should also remember this is a team competition. Gateshead Harriers were the winners last week, and they've got 2 runners just on the back of this group. Barry Smith wearing 80 and Kevin Forster 81, and also Bingley Harriers in with a chance today, and they're represented by Steve Binns and by Colin Moore. But in fact, those 2 clubs are now have been overtaken at this stage in the race by Tipton Harriers, led by Paul O'Callaghan, who we've seen several times, and also Andy Holden. Tipton are lying in the lead in the club event from Bingley, and then Gateshead and Stretford.
Must be one of the greenest parks and one of the greenest city centres in Britain. Cardiff has really laid on everything apart from the weather, I think, for us today, as John Woods of Liverpool Harriers still leads, but still very prominent in that leading group are the 3 Americans. And the Welsh crowd will be hoping, I'm sure, for a Welsh victory in the shape of Steve Jones as we reach the halfway point.
Well, there was the pace just outside that 28 minutes, 14 minutes 0.4, so it's been slowing a little over these last 2 kilometres.
With so many in that leading group, I think we can expect to see the pace probably increase at the end. One casualty that's gone off the back is Paul Cummings. He's drifted away from the group and he will never get back on again. One name that hasn't been mentioned in the centre of the pack there for Tipton Harriers, Tony Miller-Soroff in the green and white hoops.
I was saying, Ron, before the race that probably no other country in the world could produce a road race with this depth of quality. Would you agree with that? Why is it that Britain is so prominent?
I think we've got such a great tradition of middle distance and long distance running that to get to the top in this country, you have to train very, very hard, and you've got to compete very, very hard, and you've got to be excellent. I mean, if you wanted to run 1,500 metres, you've got to get past Steve Cram, Steve Ovett and Seb Coe, and these are the standards that we set ourselves.
Well, certainly, as you suggest, with the quality of athletics and particularly middle distance and long distance running in Britain, you have to do something very exceptional to capture the headlines. But there in the centre of the picture, number 120, Steve Jones, is a man who did just that, of course, with that world best time in the Chicago Marathon and his victory in the London Marathon a fortnight ago. Steve Jones talked to Jim Rosenthal before the race and talked about the possibility of winning here in Cardiff.
6K, I should imagine somebody's, at least one person would have tried to make a move by then. Maybe it might be me, I'm not quite sure yet. If it's fast enough, then I'll sit back a while. But I should imagine somebody's tried to dominate the race starting at 6K.
Steve Jones is being watched today, incidentally, by his family, his wife Annette and sons Daffyd, there's a good Welsh name for you, and Matthew amongst the crowd. And he himself is watching at the moment the leader, John Woods, and watching him very carefully. So, from left to right in that group, number 22, all in red, is John Tuttle of the United States. Number 21 is Craig Virgin of the United States. Just behind them is Eamon Martin. Number 120 is Steve Jones. 108 in the yellow top is the leader, John Woods. John Richards, wearing number 3, is on the inside of that group. And Carl Harrison, number 140, with the ever-present, it seems, grimace on his face, on the left-hand side of the picture in the maroon shorts.
Well, a big group. John Woods leading them into the wind here, and it seems to have detached itself quite remarkably from the rest of the field. Colin Moore at the back there, running in his vest with a big hole in it. It's his favourite vest.
There's the 6 kilometre point. Time 16 minutes 50.3, so maintaining a very steady pace of 2 minutes 50 for each kilometre, just outside 28-minute pace. But as Ron said before, undoubtedly they'll speed up towards the finish with so many fast kickers in there, and we could have the fastest 10 kilometres on the road ever in Britain. That in fact stands at 27 minutes 59 to Steve Jones last year, and it looks like we may be inside that time today.
I notice at the back of that leading group, Nigel Gates, who really was a revelation at Glasgow. He led between 8 and 9 kilometres, finished 7th in the end, and that was undeniably his best ever run, and that at the age of 31. His wife, Julia, also a competitor today in the women's 3,000 metres. So, it's now Steve Jones in the lead. He's on the inside. There he is, number 120. With Woods, the Irishman from Liverpool Harriers, still looking comfortable. Number 21 is Craig Virgin. Steve Binns, number 41 in the blue and white hoops. And Jack Buckner, also looking very comfortable at this stage. John Tuttle, number 22, all in red, the other American on the left-hand side of the picture. And Tony Milosorov just behind Eamon Martin, who is another who still looks as though he's got plenty in reserve, Ron.
Well, Steve fears that he hasn't got a sprint finish, so he's got to take it on as early as he can in the race to try to draw the sting from the sprinters. He's not afraid to do the work. He's a very courageous runner, and he'll have a go, and he'll try to use that marathon strength that he's got to apply the pressure to this group and drop them off the back. And we can see Bernie Ford from Aldershot in red, number 30, just falling back there.
And a lot of men have fallen back because this pace has really sorted out, shall we say, the internationals, the world-class athletes from the very, very good club runners who make up the rest of this field. This is a quality race, no doubt about that. And there are some very, very good men in amongst that group. Number 11, Eamon Martin, nearest to the camera, who I know felt he had a good run in him today. He was disappointed, as I say, with his performance in Battersea. He's been training. There he is, number 11, Eamon Martin, on the track this week. He feels very, very sharp. And he feels indeed that this summer he could go very close to lowering his personal best for the 5,000 metres to close to 13 minutes.
Steve Binns takes the pace on now. He ran very, very well last week. I thought he would have had a better sprint finish than he had, but I mean, these things can change from week to week. This may be his day today, but Jack Buckner is just what I call lurking in the wings there. He's running very much like he did at Battersea Park. He looks relaxed, his arms are sort of flopping about. He's just watching the group, moving up as anybody makes a move, just to what we call cover the moves. We're moving into third place there now, just in front of Eamon Martin.
And the 6 kilometre point, they've just passed 19 minutes 37.8, and that means that the pace did indeed pick up in that last kilometre. Interestingly, Steve Jones was the main person who was responsible for that pace change, and it's at 6 kilometres that he did exactly the same thing in Battersea when he stepped up the pace. This time, though, he's got help in that pace setting from Steve Binns.
So this is the leading group. Number 41, Steve Binns in the blue and white hoops. Number 120 is Steve Jones. And number 18, just coming to Jones's shoulder, is Jack Buckner, who planned his race. He plans them all meticulously and knew exactly where he would be at this point. Perhaps he wasn't expecting to lap a couple of runners who will now be obliged to move over and drop out of the race. But Jack Buckner certainly knew where he'd be and indeed what his plans would be at this stage of the race.
By 8 kilometres, the race should have thinned out a bit more, but going by Glasgow, that isn't necessarily going to be the case. So I think we could be seeing a similar race to Glasgow and an exciting finish with one of several athletes, or several athletes could be involved in it still.
And indeed they are, because who would like to put their head on the chopping block and pick a winner from this? A real who's who of British middle and long distance running that we're seeing here. Number 41, Steve Binns. Number 18 is Buckner. And of course, we have the American challenge in that leading group too. Number 22 is John Tuttle. 21 is Craig Virgin, both in the all red of the United States. Number 11, Eamon Martin. And number 120, all in white, is Steve Jones, with Carl Harrison on the left-hand side of the picture, number 140. And Dave Clark, the Glasgow winner, wearing number 2 on the right-hand side of the picture. Barry Smith's still in there too. And so is John Richards, and so is Nat Muir.
Yeah, Colin Moore from Bingley has just been dropped off the back, as Kevin Forster. When these guys go into the lead and make that little surge, it's got the effect of just dropping those people off the back who are really, really struggling. And Carl Harrison has got a habit of running on the outside of the group all the time. I'm surprised he doesn't try to tuck in when they're running into a wind, because it's about 15% easier to run behind somebody, even in still air, than it is to run alongside them. And to run into a wind when there's shelter available is sort of difficult to understand. But Gary Tuttle, who surprised everybody last week to finish so well up, is looking very menacing there. Craig Virgin in red, just at the back of the group, is looking to struggle a little bit.
There is the sign showing just 2 kilometres to go. The time 22 minutes 27.1, just 3 seconds outside 28-minute pace. And just a reminder that also in the team competition,
Leading at the moment are now Stretford, who've moved into the lead just ahead of Bingley and Tipton, but it's really neck and neck between those teams. They've got to have 3 runners to finish, with Gateshead in 4th place.
There are now less than 2 laps to go. Could it be a sprinter's finish? Well, if it is, Jack Buckner is the man who'll expect to have that finish, and we're getting almost a repeat situation now of what we saw in Battersea a month or so ago, with Steve Jones leading but being followed by a very frisky looking Jack Buckner. But more importantly and differently to Battersea, there are still another 6 or 7 men in that group capable of winning now. Dave Clark, last week's winner. Eamon Martin, number 11, left-hand side of the picture. Buckner looks over his shoulder and sees Eamon Martin looking ominously comfortable too. Carl Harrison, well, that expression on his face hardly speaks of comfort, does it? But as we were saying before, he always runs that way. Don't be put off by that expression. Carl Harrison still has a lot of running in him, and so does number 80 on the left-hand side of the picture, Barry Smith of Gateshead. Craig Virgin of the United States, disappointed in his performance in Glasgow, is there too, and really it's still at this stage any one of 8 or 9 men who can win.
I think Buckner's landed with the lead he doesn't really want. He's just almost casually looking around as if to say, well, you know, let's get the time passing until it's my time to make a big sprint for the finish. Eamon Martin looks very, very comfortable too, but whether he'll be able to live with Jack Buckner over a fast final 400 or 500 metres remains to be seen.
And now it's Buckner who's gone into the lead, and really this leading group have set a formidable pace. Buckner who leads, Carl Harrison is 2nd, Eamon Martin is 3rd, then it's John Tuttle, Dave Clark, Steve Jones has dropped back slightly, and Nat Muir on the inside, with Steve Binns of Bingley and Craig Virgin still in that group. But Buckner, really, one can say, looking at that style and looking at the confidence and the relaxed manner of his running, Ron, that we might well be looking at a winner here, number 18, Jack Buckner.
Yeah, not only is he physically relaxed, he's also got a very relaxed mental attitude towards this. He's here to enjoy the race today, and I think as he got shunted into the lead, he, instead of trying to dive back into the pack and bide his time, he's the sort of guy who might just, well, here I am, I'm going to take it on and let's see what you can do with me.
And now they approach the bell. A lap to go then for the leading group, and the crowd really lifted by the excitement of what should be a tremendous finish here. And now it looks as though 4 have broken clear. Buckner, Harrison, Martin, Tuttle, but Clark is in there too, and Steve Jones, the marathon man, is not in that leading group.
And the time, 25 minutes 12 at 9 kilometres, exactly on 28-minute pace. They'll surely go faster in the finish, and this could well be the fastest 10 kilometres ever run in Britain. Nick Rhodes has run a fast time in the States of 27.34, but their target for a British all-comers road record will be 27.59. They must get that. And let's remind ourselves too that Jack Buckner is one of the world's fastest milers, 3:51. Eamon Martin and Dave Clark also very fast milers.
And a gap beginning to build now between those 5 and Craig Virgin, who's heading the second group. And there's Steve Jones, way back now, and obviously the pace, well, he's not that far back still, but I wouldn't expect Steve Jones to be able to pull up now to this leading group, led by number 18, Jack Buckner. Carl Harrison, number 140, nearest the camera in 2nd place. Eamon Martin, just obscured by Harrison, and there's Dave Clark, the Glasgow winner, on the inside. What a finish this is going to be.
Eamon looks really, really comfortable there. He's sort of glancing to the ground. He's content to let the others take the responsibility for the pace. Carl's running a tremendous race here, a really gutsy performance, but when the sprinting starts, will he be able to hold on? They turn across the top of the course now, and they know when they make the final turn, it's going to be with the wind. It's a straight road, it's a good road, and there are less than 400 metres to go. So here's where the big kickers will start to apply the kick.
Well, Eamon Martin, number 11 there, took part in a tremendous finish in the Newcastle City Centre road race over 5 kilometres when he was just out-sprinted by David Lewis. Is he to suffer the same experience again, I wonder, only this time, possibly from Buckner, but don't discount Clark yet. Harrison can't live with this finishing burst, but it's Buckner and Martin, and of the two, it's Eamon Martin who possibly looks the more comfortable at this stage, and he's coming to the shoulder of Buckner. Clark's trying hard to hold on. What a finish this is going to be. Eamon Martin has gone into the lead, and perhaps those track sessions this week have paid off for Eamon Martin. And Eamon Martin is going to win it. Already has the confidence to raise his hands to the crowd and punches the air in delight. And he's out-sprinted the sprinter, Jack Buckner, and a marvellous victory for Eamon Martin of Basildon, the winner. Second place goes to Jack Buckner. Dave Clark is third, and that time of 27:46.8, a sensational performance by Eamon Martin. And the Basildon man, coached by Mel Batty, and would you believe his coach is actually on holiday in the United States of America, so he's missed this marvellous triumph. Eamon Martin, very close to that record, and here he is now talking to Jim Rosenthal.
Eamon, a superb run, and I'm told a British record as well.
Was it? I wasn't really worried about records. Just ran the race, just tucked in and left it as late as possible. Quite a nice finishing straight for me, really.
But I know you were very keen to make up here for a disappointing run earlier this season in Battersea.
Yeah, that was a bit of an experiment at Battersea, which didn't work, so I went back to my old tactics, as it were.
What were your old tactics?
Sit in, really, and see who's about, and I'm very strong over the last 200, 300 over this sort of distance. And I felt so easy on the last lap that I thought I had it once we went to the home straight, to be honest.
Did you really, even with somebody of the finishing speed of Jack Buckner?
Yeah, it's not just about finishing speed. There's, you know, other factors as well, strength, stamina. And I haven't really performed very well this winter to my capabilities anyway, so it's nice to get that in my system anyway.
It's a great boost for you, Eamon. Very well done indeed. Terrific.
Thanks, Jim.
Confirmation there of Eamon Martin's splendid time, 27 minutes, 47 seconds, the sixth fastest ever in the world. Jack Buckner second, 27 minutes, 49, and Dave Clark third, 27.50, as the first seven ran better than the previous time ever recorded for a 10-kilometre road race in Britain. So that means that the Grand Prix standings, with Martin and Buckner not running in Glasgow, Dave Clark, the winner, 198 points. John Tuttle, fifth today, 194. And Carl Harrison, fourth today, leading his club Stretford to the team victory, third with 193 points.
And a tremendous run by Eamon and by Chrissy. If we can just look ahead a couple of weeks, a fortnight's time in Antrim, we go to Antrim for the UK Championships, and there's coverage of that on both the Saturday and the Sunday on ITV. And I'm delighted that... Good evening from central London. At last we have a lovely, dry, sunny day for the climax of our Gaymers City Centre Road Race Series. Well, here around Pall Mall we'll discover the identity of our Grand Prix winners, the Grand Prix that started in Glasgow and continued in Cardiff, and what an incentive those winners have too, with the top man guaranteed £5,000 and the leading lady getting £2,500. And joining our series for the very first time is Portugal's Fernando Mamede, world record holder on the track at this 10K or 10,000 metres distance. Wimbledon's Dave Clark, first in Glasgow, fourth in Cardiff. He's top of the Grand Prix standings at the moment. Our first race is going to be the women's 3K, just under 2 miles, and the Grand Prix leader here is Yvonne Murray, delightful young athlete from Edinburgh. Yvonne, a popular winner in Glasgow, just outpaced by Chrissy Boxer in Cardiff. Angela Tooby seems to be Yvonne's main threat for that overall title, but her sister Susan and Kathy Carter are both in contention as well. But our field today really enhanced by the presence of the lady who's regarded as the top girl anywhere in the world at the moment, and Wendy Sly goes over her Olympic silver medal distance, 3,000 metres. Now, Wendy's had a great winter over in America, and she must start as a very firm favourite here.
Very much. Congratulations on behalf.
So, Wendy Sly effectively starting her season here at Westminster. Wendy's already had a lovely week, winning a new car from General Motors. First prize in the Sports Riders Association raffle. One successful lottery you've had this week. Do you view this weekend's race as a bit of a lottery as well?
Yes, I suppose I've got to, really. I've had a few problems the last 10 days, so a bit of chance, I suppose.
Just tell us about the problems you've been having at the moment. It's with your knee, mainly.
Yes, I've got a Baker's cyst at the back of my left knee, and it swells up every time I run. But I've been taking anti-inflammatories for about a week now, and it's feeling very much better, so I hope that it'll be okay on Sunday.
People now call you the greatest road runner in the world. I mean, are you aware that you're the one everyone's going to be shooting at?
I suppose you've got to be, really. I've been very fortunate the last few races that I've run. I've run quite well, and I suppose you build up a reputation and a good resume, and I've got to expect that everyone's going to be wanting to beat me now. I've got to say, really, that I think this race is tailor-made for someone like me, because although I love running 10K on the road in America, it is still a little bit long for me. And coming off the track to run on the roads, 10K initially did seem a long way, but the 3K is probably perfect.
So Wendy Sly perhaps not 100%, but still very confident. The women just about ready to go. We join commentator Alan Parry.
There are 31 competitors in the women's race. They start at the bottom of Regent Street, right in the heart of London shopping centre, and make their way along Piccadilly, down St James's Street, along Pall Mall, a distance of 1,500 metres. So the women run exactly 2 laps of this course. The Tooby twins, 9 and 10, who have figured so prominently in the earlier races in this series. But there's number 40 in the centre of the picture, who, if she runs to form, Wendy Sly will be expected to win. Yvonne Murray, very much the favourite for the Grand Prix prize. She's wearing number 32. The yellow number signifies that she is the leader in the Grand Prix standings. Certainly the ladies will be grateful for the improved weather conditions. Both in Glasgow and Cardiff, they've had to put up with cold, windy conditions. But today, glorious weather, and they're off on this 2-lap course. And you can see straight away how they're anxious to gain a good position, because they go up Regent Street, and it's quite an incline, and it's also into a fairly stiff breeze. But the real reason that we saw that jostling for position right at the start was that when they turn left into Piccadilly, the course narrows considerably, and it really is narrow, so it's important to get a good position right at the start, and that's why Wendy Sly, in the centre of the picture there, has gone out right to the front, right at the start. Well, alongside us today, Ron Hill, the man who probably knows more about road running than any British athlete. Ron, these conditions are going to be hard, surely, in what must be 70-odd degree heat.
Yes, the heat is unexpected, and when one comes from the long winter that we've had so far this year, the unexpected heat tends to give these runners problems, because they've had no time for any kind of acclimatisation. Wendy Sly has spent quite a bit of time in the States and should be used to it more than anybody else, but she has had a cold and certain other problems, and she may be struggling.
So they're running along Piccadilly, one of the most famous streets in London. Lots and lots of tourists about today, and lots of spectators for this series. And they're seeing surely the best woman road runner Great Britain has ever produced, leading the field. And she will come into sight, leading this group of 31 of the elite of British middle distance running. Number 40, Wendy Sly, Olympic silver medalist at this distance, of course, the United Kingdom record holder on the track. And alongside her, another familiar front runner, wearing number 9 in the blue shorts, is Angela Tooby. So all the big names, as expected. Yvonne Murray just behind Angela Tooby. All the big names, as expected, in that leading group.
We see a lot of sand on the road there. You might wonder what that is. In fact, the road was covered in grit and sand to get rid of the oil. The oil which the buses had left, because that in fact was a bus lane, and the course was restricted to that bus lane there, quite narrow, about 7 feet wide.
Well, Yvonne Murray really has to run her own race virtually today. Wendy Sly, who hasn't competed in either of the previous races in this series, is going out to win. But the Grand Prix is what matters as far as Yvonne Murray is concerned. There she is, just sandwiched between Angela Tooby, number 9, and Wendy Sly, number 40. Yvonne Murray's form in this series has been outstanding, and a place in the top 3 today would be enough to win her the major prize. So Jim Rosenthal asked Yvonne if she was pleased with the way the series had gone.
Yeah, so we didn't really plan to run all 3, and I decided to run Glasgow just for fun. And then when I did win it, I thought, well, I'll try the next one. And I've been really surprised at how well I've actually done. And I think basically my training's going so well at the beginning of the year. With doing the indoors season, I've been quite fit. So I'm really pleased with it so far.
And you have struggled a little bit financially. It's been a great help to you already, hasn't it?
Yes, I do find that this money will help tremendously with expenses as well with my coach. Before, we had to fund it ourselves and go into all the races, whereas now I won't have to worry about where the next penny is coming from.
And as the runners come down St James's Street, Yvonne Murray and the rest have completed the first kilometre for the time, Peter Matthews.
Surprisingly fast first kilometre, the fastest in the series so far, 2 minutes 54 seconds, so they're well inside 9-minute pace as they're coming up shortly soon to the halfway point.
Number 22 on Wendy Sly's left there in the yellow vest and the long flowing blonde hair, Jill Clark, the Sheffield girl, in her best form ever really after a long absence from the scene. And Clark, Sly, Tooby and Murray all amongst that leading group. Both the Toobies, of course, running almost in harness, as they so often do. And at the bell, it's Wendy Sly who leads, Angela Tooby, Susan Tooby, Clark and Murray, all in that leading group of 6.
And it looks like a fast time. I think it's going to be the fastest race of the series so far. They passed us the first half race in 4:24, so certainly well inside the 9-minute pace, and still with a good group of them all bunched together in contention.
And I suppose the question is, Ron, as Wendy Sly finds herself flanked by the Tooby twins on left and right, the question is how much the bout of flu and how much the knee injury has taken out of Wendy Sly.
Well, I think she's going to find out now, because in fact she's heading up into a wind, and this is going to be hard work. Jill Clark is just slipping back a little bit from that group, but Yvonne Murray is menacing there. When they get to the top of this hill, they make a left turn, and a relief, they come into the wind. And now Wendy Sly has lost the lead there. Angela Tooby, flanked by Susan Tooby, has taken over, followed by Yvonne Murray, and she's lost 3 or 4 yards here. This is maybe where the illness is taking over.
Well, on any other day, of course, Wendy would be the outstanding favourite, but that knee injury could be a problem. And Wendy also suffering from the effects of that bout of flu. And she wasn't really confident that at this stage she'd be getting by without feeling some pain. So it's Angela Tooby, Susan Tooby just behind her, number 32, Yvonne Murray. But really, Wendy Sly beginning to feel the effects of injury.
About 2,000 metres, I think I'll probably be asking someone in the crowd for an oxygen mask, because I've had a bad cold the last few days, and I'll probably be coughing, sputtering a bit. But apart from that, I'll be thinking about heading for the finish line. Good, strong finish.
And you feel that this distance suits you ideally?
Yes, I think so. I love running on the roads. I love the feeling of running on the road, and 3,000 is a nice distance to be running on the road.
But at the moment it looks as though Wendy Sly's fears have been founded. She's dropped back off that group, and now we have the familiar trio. Number 32, Yvonne Murray, the Grand Prix leader. Number 9, Angela Tooby, and in 3rd place, number 10, Susan Tooby.
And just when that break originated by the Toobies started, they went through the 2,000-metre point in 5 minutes 54 seconds. And certainly the pace has speeded up a lot. And I think we may even get inside Yvonne Murray's Glasgow time of 8:51, the fastest in the series so far.
So what a marvellous way it would be to win the Grand Prix by winning the final race in the series too. Yvonne Murray, a winner in fine style in Glasgow in 8 minutes 50 on a tight course. She finished 2nd, remember, to Chris Boxer in Cardiff in 8 minutes 56 seconds. There she is, the 20-year-old Clark from Edinburgh, with the sympathetic boss who allows her time off to train and compete. You may have seen her a week ago winning the 3-kilometre track title in the United Kingdom Championships, and then finishing 3rd in the 5,000 metres. And Yvonne Murray really lengthening the gap now between herself, the Toobies, and the rest of the group, with Jill Clark bringing up the 2nd group, and Wendy Sly has dropped well back. Ron Hill.
No sign of Wendy Sly, but they're coming out into the final straight, and it looks like both the Tooby twins have been dropped, except that Angela may be just sitting on the back of Yvonne Murray. There's a gusting wind up this home straight. If you should just sit in there, she may have a chance of kicking at the end, but Yvonne's stride looks quite relaxed, as it did up in Glasgow, and she's striding away. A quick glance over the shoulder from Angela, which makes you suspicious that she's not going to kick, and she's looking for any danger behind, and she may just settle for second.
Angela Tooby, second in the overall Grand Prix standings, runner-up to Murray in Glasgow, third behind Murray and Chris Boxer in Cardiff. But really, as far as Yvonne Murray is concerned, a place in the first three would be enough to clinch the overall Grand Prix prize, but Tooby's going to push her all the way. It's going to be a tremendous finish, this. Angela Tooby, the national cross-country champion, has taken Yvonne Murray, and Angela Tooby is going to win the race and the prize that goes with it. But behind her in second place is Yvonne Murray, and she knows, and that's why she punches the air with delight. She may have been beaten, but Yvonne Murray wins the Grand Prix prize. Third place went to Susan Tooby, but a marvellous performance by the winner, Angela Tooby, in an excellent time, too, of 8 minutes, 47 seconds.
Magnificent time there, certainly for Tooby. And what was also most impressive was the way she came through and out-sprinted Yvonne Murray, something that she hadn't showed in the previous series. So she's getting better and better. But for Yvonne Murray, nonetheless, tremendous result, because, of course, that clinches the Grand Prix for her.
And a prize of £2,500 added to her prizes from a victory and a second place earlier in the series. A very, very worthwhile paycheck and a worthy winner.
OK, Angela, very well done indeed. I know you're terribly hot and you're desperate for a bit of shade, but what a fantastic finish.
I didn't think I would do it, although right at the end I was only about a couple of metres on her from behind, and I thought, just keep it there and take her by surprise near the end. I thought she'd come back at me, but I was so determined.
Over the series, you've been one of our sort of front runners, one of our brave ones, as it were. How much does it mean to you to actually go past the post first this time?
A lot, because I knew Wendy was more my type of runner. She would just carry me through the first lap and a half, and she did nicely. I thought I'd be OK, and it worked like that.
Good, very well done. Pop off and get some shade.
Thank you very much.
OK, so well done to Angela Tooby, and after the break we're going to be talking to our Grand Prix winner, Yvonne Murray, and of course still to come the climax of our series with the men's 10K. We'll be back in a moment. Superb run by Angela Tooby. The news of Wendy Sly, by the way, she had to drop out with a recurrence of that leg injury. But let's just confirm the results and give you the final Grand Prix standings now with Peter Matthews.
Well, there's the result today. Angela Tooby, the splendid winner, in 8 minutes 47 seconds, from Yvonne Murray 8:48 and Susan Tooby 8:55. A long way clear then of Bradford, Carter and Clark. So that means that we've now got the final Grand Prix standings. After the 3 races, Yvonne Murray, who in all picks up a total prize money of £3,500 from the series, with 298 points, with a first and 2 seconds, winning from Angela Tooby, 297. Today's winner, and then Susan Tooby, Kathy Carter in third, Julianne Lawton and Jill Clark in 5th equal.
So Yvonne Murray, very well done indeed. I'd just like to talk to you really about that finish. You must have thought you were in for your second victory.
Yes, I did go off a bit too early and paid the penalty for it. Actually, I thought it was Wendy Sly that was behind me. I didn't realise it was Angela. So he's a bit concerned what happened to Wendy, as she was the favourite for today's race. But overall, I'm really pleased, so going back, a bit happy.
You're quite happy, and I would think your bank manager's fairly happy as well.
Well, you could say that, yes.
Good, Yvonne, very well done indeed. It's been a pleasure watching you. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of you this season. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Good. So away goes Yvonne Murray, and now it's time for the men's 10 kilometres round our course here in London's West End. Let's just check how the Grand Prix standings look going into this last race.
So, after the first 2 races, Dave Clark leads with 198 points. 2 Americans in there in the top 5. John Tuttle in second at 194. So Clark really only needs to win by 3 places over any of these other people. Carl Harrison of Stretford third. Steve Binns and John Richards 4th equal. And the other guest, Craig Virgin of America, in 6th place. Now, the all-time road standings in the UK at 10,000 metres, very severely affected by that tremendous race in Cardiff. Eamon Martin's time of 27.47, bettered only by Nick Rose. Jack Buckner, Dave Clark and Carl Harrison behind him, all going into the top 5. And also you can see Nat Muir, Steve Binns, Steve Jones and John Richards, all under 28 minutes. So what a tremendous standing we've already seen in this series of road races.
So they're all set. Let's rejoin race commentator Alan Parry.
78 men go in this 10-kilometre final, and to enable them to run exactly 10k, the men start at a different place to the women's race at the corner of Jermyn Street. They then run around a quarter of a mile along Jermyn Street before joining the main loop, which they then run a total of 6 times. So a fabulous field gathered for this race, and there in the centre, wearing the green and white hoops, number 23, Fernando Mamede, the man from Portugal who is the fastest man in history over this distance. Dave Clark wearing number 2, the blonde-haired figure in the yellow top and red shorts, the Grand Prix leader. So a tremendous scramble for places again. Jermyn Street, quite a narrow avenue, and they will then turn left into St James's Street itself, back onto the main course at the start of their 6 laps to complete the 10 kilometres. And this race really is one of 3 races almost taking part simultaneously. Not only are they going for victory today with the prizes that will bring, but also, of course, they're looking for Grand Prix points towards the overall standings. And let's not forget either that there's a very important team race going on here with tremendous competition and 10 prizes in all for club, individual and Grand Prix placings. Ron Hill, we see so much of many of these men on the track. I wonder at the start of this race if you can just tell us what are the main differences between running this kind of distance on the roads and on the track?
Well, I always used to reckon that it was a lot faster to run on the roads, but that was in the days when cinder tracks were very common and the synthetic tracks were very rare. And now it's far easier to run on those all-weather tracks. But the thing about roading is that these runners are not getting lap times. They may be glancing at watches to see kilometre times, and I've always held that lap times can be quite inhibiting. Quite often in a road race, these guys will compete against each other without thinking about the time, and this is what produces fast clockings, because in a fast track race, if you see the first lap in 62, one tends to think, oh my God, we're going too fast here, we better slow down. But in road racing, it's just competition.
So Steve Harris sets a very brisk early pace, with even Fernando Mamede not prepared to go with him at this stage, and Dave Clark, the Grand Prix leader, just sitting in on the shoulder of Mamede. The runners who've certainly enjoyed this series, which was the brainchild of the International Athletes Club and their chief Dave Bedford, now realise that the pressure is really on. And Bedford explained how the athletes are reacting to the cash prizes.
Getting very nervous. They suddenly realised that with the excellent prize money that they can earn from this afternoon, that this is reality. I think although they've wanted to see themselves as professionals in the past, they haven't had perhaps the kind of pressures that running for prize money brings on them. I think they've seen other sportsmen, snooker players, fluffing shots and footballers missing open goals and wondered why. I know they're nervous now, and I think they're just starting to understand what life's all about.
They certainly are, and at this stage they're starting to realise too, if they didn't already guess it, that the pace is going to be very, very tough indeed. Steve Harris of Shaftesbury Harriers, who ran in a British League match yesterday over 1,500 metres, who's had this pelvic injury that's caused him so many problems, over 5,000 metres I should say, who's had this pelvic injury that's caused him so many problems, determined that sooner or later he's going to get back and win a big race. Well, could he be the surprise back hit? Could today be the day? He's certainly gone off very quickly, and you can see already has opened up a gap between himself and the next bunch, which includes all those big names. Mamede in the green and white hoops, number 23. Dave Clark wearing the yellow top and the red shorts. I've seen Tim Hutchings in there. There he is, number 12 on the right-hand side of the picture. And further right still, number 3, the blonde-haired figure of John Richards. Number 140 in the centre of the picture is Carl Harrison, who's lying 3rd overall in the Grand Prix. But it's still Harris who leads at this stage. Ron Hill.
Yes, Steve's gone off really quickly here. I can't honestly see him staying up there, but I better not say too much about that because I seem to be getting one or two things wrong this afternoon after that tremendous win by Angela Toomey. But you notice along Piccadilly now, there is no shade at all, so they're running in the full sunlight. And this is bound to affect them. Although the winning time in the ladies' race was faster than any other race of the series, even in the very cold weather, today is bound to take the toll because these runners are going to be out for around 28 minutes, and the sun really is beating down. And we'll see the sweat glistening on the foreheads of the runners as Mamedi starts to bring the runners up to fill that gap. He probably doesn't know Steve all that well, so he's covering any sort of danger that might occur. But these are very, very early times in the race.
Well, yesterday in the British League match, he went off very, very quickly and very early, only to be overtaken then. And now Mamedi is coming to the shoulder of Harris. But there's number 2 in the yellow top and the red shorts, David Clark, who is, of course, the leader of the Grand Prix. He really has had a fabulous time. Won the race in Glasgow, placed 3rd in Cardiff, hasn't been beaten in the series by anyone running today because there's no Eamon Martin and no Jack Buckner. He would obviously feel that he'd be hard pushed to win the race, but how important is it to Clark to be the overall Grand Prix winner?
Well, very important, really. It'd be very nice to win the overall. Really, it'd be another start to my athletic career after a couple of years fairly quiet. I haven't done as much as I'd like to have done. Maybe this will set us up with the road racing series and road racing in Great Britain beginning to become quite big. So it could be very important.
No matter what happens, it's going to be a very hot race indeed, isn't it?
Indeed it is. It's exceptionally warm at the moment, and we'll get hotter as the kilometres keep away.
I'm sure it will. The temperature must be in the mid-70s already here today as they come into our view again on this flat, or mainly flat, fast and interesting course. And still Harris up there with Mamedi, number 23. Nat Muir now in the familiar headband has joined that leading group. And so too Mark Scrutton, who you may remember winning the 1500 metres title in the United Kingdom Championships a week ago.
Yeah, well, Mark is obviously fresh. The conditions under which he won that 10K track championship were very, very different than they are today. But again, Mark has had experience of running in the States and should be used to running in these hot conditions. Mamedi has come from Portugal, so he's going to be used to the hot conditions. Dave Lewis has been running some heat training lately, so these two may be the best prepared for these conditions and may well be the best survivors of the race today. But here they come now as they pass our commentary position. They will have, and they turn the corner, they will have 5 more laps to go. Still a remarkably huge bunch up the front there, somewhat strung out, but everybody in that bunch is still in contact in some way.
Number 154 in the green and white hoops, a very similar running vest to Mamedi, the darker-skinned Portuguese world record holder for this distance on the track, is Paulo Callaghan, who you may remember figured early on in 1 or 2 of the earlier races in the series, the Tipton Harrier. There he is, just moving up into 2nd place behind Mamedi. And it would be quite a celebration if O'Callaghan could place well today. He was 21 years old yesterday. As I say, he's often been up with the pace. He ran 28 minutes, 23 seconds to finish 17th in Cardiff. Former 3A's junior 5-kilometre champion. Number 220 there is Nat Muir, the Scotsman, with a fine and consistent record. And wearing the blue top just on Muir's outside is David Lewis. Looking right back down towards Waterloo Place, you can see this field of 78 well strung out by that early break by Harris, which has now been continued by Mamedi. And Mamedi now, in fact, has built up something of a gap between himself and the rest. The man who absolutely destroyed the old world record for 10,000 metres held by Henry Rono by no less than 9 seconds in Stockholm last July.
And Mamedi has just passed the 3,000 metre point in a fast time of 8 minutes 17 seconds. Well, that's well inside 28-minute pace, and that's remarkably fast going, I think, in this hot conditions. And he's now opening up a lead of about 10 metres, but there's about 20 men still poised just behind him.
But Ron Hill, surely the conditions today will suit Mamedi ideally.
Almost definitely, though. If you can look on his forehead, the sweat is shining there, so he's not finding it that comfortable. But that kind of pace, I'm really not surprised. I can see Dave Lewis to the right of that following bunch, wearing number 1 in the blue strip, looking round to see who's still there, and more or less questioning by the look on his face as if to say, well, come on, who's going to go and catch Mamedi? Are we going to let him go? Are we going to fight it out amongst ourselves back here, just the Englishman? Or are we going to go and get him?
David Lewis, number 1 in the blue top and blue shorts on the right-hand side of the picture, up with the leaders in that second group behind Mamedi. Returning to action after a 7-week break, David Lewis. He hasn't run since he finished 3rd in the ranked Xerox 10-kilometre final, a race televised by ITV in Battersea. So in view of his long break from competition, surely David is feeling fitter now than ever before.
I think I'm a little bit fitter than I was during the winter season. So that's quite encouraging for me. I've been putting some good track sessions in lately. So, you know, I'm pretty strong at the moment.
You've been following the races, I know, on television. What sort of race are you going to run today with that information at the back of your mind?
It's going to be difficult because there's a lot of good guys together today, and it's going to be difficult for anybody to make a break early on. I can see the race going to the last lap today. You've got people like Mamedi and Tim Hutchins, 2 obvious front runners. So I'm just going to stick with those guys, and I don't think I'll go far around.
David Lewis has been enjoying that 2-week break in Lanzarote. There he is, number 1. He's been training very, very hard, over 100 miles a week. Some quality track work too. As you heard him say, not really sure how he was going to perform today. He was mentally stale, he felt, after his very, very, very busy racing schedule in the winter months when he won the national cross-country title and also won 3 big indoor internationals. So Lewis now in 2nd place. Mamedi of Portugal, still the leader, and coming up alongside David Lewis now, number 41, there he is on the left-hand side of the picture, Steve Binns of Bingley, who's 4th equal overall, having finished 4th in Glasgow and 7th in Cardiff. But from a team point of view, his club Bingley very much in the forefront in the race for prizes, Peter Matthews.
Well, yes, because Gateshead Harriers go into this race with a lead of just 10 points, 5.53 to 5.43 for Bingley. But Gateshead not at full strength today, lacking Kevin Forster and Jeff Turnbull, their team with Barry Smith, Mike Murphy and Colin Walker. But Bingley's team may well be stronger today. Steve Binns leading their challenge, and Colin Moore, wearing 42, is also up there in that leading group in about 12th place, and they're backed by Jimmy Ashworth, number 40. So Bingley may well have enough strength to come through to win the team competition today, with Stretford at the moment currently in 3rd place.
So you're looking at the leader, Fernando Mamedi of Portugal, a real enigma in the sport. He holds the world record, he used to hold the European record. He's recorded several great times and great victories, but he has a very disappointing record in the big races, often dropping out. In fact, on his last appearance in Great Britain in Gateshead in 1981, he failed to finish then. He explains away this blockage by saying it's a mental thing, it's something in his mind. Ron Hill, it must be something a lot of runners experience, that.
Yeah, there are several great runners who you put them on a relay leg on their all alone or a road race, they know they can win easily and they'll do fantastic times. But Mamedi is looking very relaxed now, and as he keeps glancing over his shoulder and seeing this lead increasing, this is the sort of thing that doesn't make him bottle out. This is the sort of thing that gives him confidence and a lot of strength through his legs and keeps him going at a very, very fast rate indeed. It's left to Stevie Binns to, again, drag that group along and try and catch him.
And there we are, the glorious sight of the Houses of Parliament, overlooking this course right in the heart of some of the most famous streets and buildings and monuments in the capital city. Mamedi the leader then. John Woods of Liverpool Harriers has come through to the fore in the yellow top and blue shorts in the 2nd group, along with Binns and Lewis, and also Dave Clark, remember? Dave Clark And just to underline the position as far as the Grand Prix is concerned, Dave Clark 4 points ahead of the American John Tuttle, who we haven't seen as yet in the leading group. So for Clark, a place in the top 4 today, anywhere in the top 4, would guarantee him the major prize. There he is, Clark, number 2 in the yellow vest. And there, in fact, for the first time in the silver strip, number 22, we can see him from behind, is John Tuttle. But Clark, if he finishes in the first 4, would have to guarantee himself that major prize of £5,000.
And we've got confirmation on the team positions at the moment. Bingley are leading on 47 points clearly from Tipton now in second place, Gateshead third, and Stretford vying with Shaftesbury, in fact also doing well for fourth place, as they're around about just now the 5,000 metre point in 13 minutes 56.1. So the strong pace being maintained, the fastest first half in any of this series so far. That's obviously inside the 28-minute pace for 10,000 metres.
And number 10 in the red top and blue shorts, Carl Thackeray, has come up alongside the figure of David Lewis and joined that leading group. So you can see now it's Mamady out in front on his own, then about 10 or 15 metres before Lewis, Woods, Thackeray, and still quite a bit of a gap now between them and the rest.
Now we're going to have some, just quickly interrupting the race, to have some results from one of the major meetings that's happened from the United States, the Prefontaine Classic, the second of the Grand Prix events. And there's the men's 5,000 metres. Sydney Marie setting a personal best to win in 13 minutes 20.48 from Doug Padilla of the USA, 13:20.67. And Jack Buckner of Britain in only his second track 5,000 metres ever, taking nearly 25 seconds off his best with 30 minutes 21.06. The men's 1,500 metres, revenge there for Joachim Cruz, back on the winning path to win in 13:35.77. A tremendous sprint finish with Jim Spivey of the USA just beating Steve Scott, 13:35.82 to 13:35.83. And finally, Mary Slaney back in winning form again to win the 5,000 metres in the third fastest time ever, 15 minutes 6.53 from Cindy Bremser of the USA, 15:19.50, and the Olympic bronze medalist at 3,000 metres, Lynn Williams, setting a Canadian record, 15:20.03.
But back here in the Gaymers Cider 3-race series, we are seeing a tremendous climax building up. The leader is Fernando Mamady of Portugal. But just to reiterate, this is his first appearance in the series, and although he has the tremendous incentive of victory and a big prize that will go with winning today's race, he cannot win the overall Grand Prix. But behind him, in that next group, are 2 men who can. Dave Clark in the yellow top, wearing number 2, the blonde-haired figure, and also John Tuttle of the United States. Carl Harrison, who was lying third equal, seems to have fallen away from this pace. Maybe the onerous responsibility, shall we say, of running 2 road races and a 10,000 metres track race in the United Kingdom Championships is beginning to tell on him, but he's not really showing at this stage. But really, the position could not be more fascinating, Ron Hill, at this stage. 2 races in 1 here.
Well, Mamady is sort of half smiling there. He's looking very, very relaxed. And as I say, the more of the lead he gains, the more confident he's going to get. And this chasing group are going to act or run like the cyclist race and take the lead from time to time, each one doing his own share of the work and putting in those extra little bursts, and they may be dropping to the back, sitting in on the pack for somebody else to do the work too. But if they keep on like this, Mamady is going to keep going away and they're never going to catch him.
It's interesting to see that the pace is slowing, 16:53 at 6,000 metres. This is very definitely a different pattern of race to those in the other series, and I think that's mainly due to the heat. In those races, we had a slower first half and a greatly increased tempo from about this point in the race. It looks to me here that the heat is getting to many of the runners, and we've seen quite a lot of the distinguished names dropping back in the field, and it looks like it's going to be a slower pace for the next 2 or 3 kilometres before perhaps they step up the tempo in the final 1,000.
So they're coming along to the 3 laps from a home marker. Just coming along Piccadilly and now turning down St James's Street. The leader, Fernando Mamady, and some welcome shadow from these very, very hot conditions. Steve Binns, number 41, is in second place. David Lewis, number 1, is third. Dave Clark, I can see, the Grand Prix leader, wearing number 2. in 4th place. Woods, the Liverpool Harrier, is just separated from Clark by Carl Thackeray, and then moving further down the field I can see 140 Carl Harrison in the background there, so he's looking on for a good prize too, because if he can maintain his position in the top 6, remember there are prizes all the way down to 10, and Harrison's had a good series so far.
And Steve Binns of Bingley Harriers, they're gaining on Mamidi, and he's doing well for his own account, but also his team Bingley are increasing their lead and certainly looking set to gain the overall team victory in the series. In this race, they are currently with 36 points from Tipton, 70, Gateshead, 111, and then Stretford. Shaftesbury, though, dropped back because Steve Harris, who we saw earlier, has dropped out, his injury again playing up.
So Mamede leads them into the glorious sunlight along Pall Mall.
And Carl Thackeray is feeling the fury of that burst by Steve Binns, and he's catching a little bit of Mamede, and he's dropped off the back, and that leaves 3 chasers only: Steve Binns, Dave Lewis and Dave Clark. And Dave is looking very, very relaxed, but one wonders whether, with only 2 laps to go, he hasn't concentrated on the English opposition too much and let Mamede steal a march on them and steal a lead, which may not be whittled down. But it is decreasing slowly, and again, this may start to work on the mind of Mamede, who will say, oh my God, they're catching, they're getting closer, am I tiring, are they going faster? The doubts that really make the guy what we call a bottler.
Carl Harrison, number 140, 3rd in the Grand Prix standings, following his 5th place in Glasgow and 4th in Cardiff, only a point behind John Tuttle, and alongside him John Richards, or rather just behind him John Richards wearing number 3, the tall blonde Cornishman. There are 2 laps to go now for the leaders.
The time at 7,000 metres was 19:43, so outside the 28-minute pace. And although Mamede appears to be surging a little bit, occasionally going back and forth, in fact, the overall kilometre splits at the moment are pretty level at about 2 minutes 50 for each 1,000 metres.
Fernando Mamede recently suffered a very rare defeat over 5,000 metres. Sidney Marie, the South African, now nationalised citizen of the United States, beating him in a race in Brazil. And apart from the disappointment of the number of times he's dropped out of big championships, Mamede, a man with an awesome record and some awesome times behind him too. 27 minutes, 13.81 seconds, his world record performance. There's Binns, Lewis and Clark in the next group of 3. Dave Clark simply hanging on in there, knowing that a place in the top 4 will guarantee him the major prize. But of course he would also like to overhaul this man Mamede and win the race itself. But Mamede, Ron, looking very smooth into a beautiful rhythm, and if you can on a day like this, looking cool too.
Yeah, but I think his lead has been reduced by quite a few seconds. It's only standing at about 2 or 3 seconds, and Steve Binns seems to be probably sacrificing his own chances of actually winning the race or finishing second by doing all this work behind him. Dave Clark is hanging on there onto that group, looking a bit uncomfortable, but we know this is something of his style, that he does grit his teeth, he does look rather laboured, but still he's moving very, very fast. The most danger, and again I'll stick my neck out here, is probably Dave Lewis. Dave is sitting in wherever there's any wind. Dave is not facing it, he's running a lot more easily, he's running in still air behind Steve Binns, and maybe on the last finish, on the last straight even, over 400 or 500 metres, if Dave unleashed a huge sprint, he would pass Mamede. And now they have caught Mamede, and this is where he's going to worry.
So
this
the race
is really going to worry.
The race really exciting now. Mamede's lead has been reduced. Steve Binns of Bingley has come through and is a confident second-place man at the moment. Clark is finding the pace a little bit hot. David Lewis in 3rd place, separating him from Binns.
And they're just coming up now to the 8,000 metre point, so just 2,000 metres to go. Just one of the signs that they'll just be passing now. Certainly they'll be outside the 28-minute pace, and they're passing there in about, just about now, in about 22 minutes, 34 seconds, 35, you can see on the clock. 28.37.8 in 22.37.8 in fact, so quite a slow last kilometre, but it'll begin to increase in tempo now.
And we have a new leader, Steve Binns, the former United Kingdom 10,000 metres champion, an ex-European junior champion, has gone into the lead. And if he can maintain this, again, we have to say what an upset it would be, because this is a real quality field. Steve Binns, a fine runner, 4th overall in the Grand Prix standings, but the Bingley Harrier run has never really been in this company and beaten this company before.
No, but he realises that he's not going to win in a sprint, and this is the only way that he's going to drop as much of the opposition as he can and get a very, very good final position. But Dave Clark has gone off the back now, and it was interesting to see that Mamidi, instead of giving up and keeping out to the left of the field, has tucked him behind Dave Lewis and tucked him behind Steve Binns, and he's going to be with them, hopefully, at the finish.
But just to repeat, although Dave Clark is looking as though he's feeling the effects now and has lost touch a little bit with that leading group of 3, and Carl Thackeray, number 10 in the red top, blue shorts, getting closer to Clark. The important thing, as far as Clark is concerned, is the gap between himself and the American John Tuttle, who's lying 2nd in the Grand Prix standings, and Tuttle is out of the picture and is some way back. So although Clark may be struggling at the moment, as the leaders reach the bell, Clark is still looking good for the overall prize.
And there's quite a big gap opening up after them too. There's about, after the first 5, there's now about 50 metres back to Colin Moore in 6th and John Woods in 7th, and John Tuttle just coming through now 8th, and Carl Harrison 9th. So those men certainly I don't think are going to catch Dave Clark.
So we have the 3 leaders. Steve Binns, number 41 in the blue and white hoops. Fernando Mamedi, the Portuguese world record holder, number 23 in the green and white hoops. And David Lewis, Britain's most successful runner in the winter season, in the blue.
Perhaps significant that up the hill on the hardest part of the course into the wind, Mamedi has moved out from 3rd place into 2nd and alongside Steve Binns, who really is running courageously. And Mamedi looks like he's putting in some kind of a small burst, a surge at the top of the hill, which could mean that he's either going to show these guys how it's done and sort of make them lose confidence, or he's just so fit that he felt good at the top and away he's gone to stride out.
Steve Binns, if he maintains this position, is going to jump 2 or 3 places in the overall standings and pick up quite considerably extra prize money. It really is a run and a half by the Bingley man, number 41, Steve Binns. Alongside Mamedi now. David Lewis, though, still looking ominously good, Ron, behind him, and that long break, 7 weeks without competition, 2 weeks sunshine training in Lanzarote, could hold him in good stead over the finish.
Yes, he said he was very fit. He said his training had gone well. He's looking quite sunburnt there. He's striding well. He's got just over half a mile to go, and he's in the best position of the lot. He hasn't done any work. They haven't really seen him. Mamedi keeps looking around to see who's still in that group. He wishes it were only 2. He wishes it were just himself. But all the time, Dave Lewis is lurking there, menacing.
And way off the back now in the yellow top and red shorts, you can see Dave Clark, a lone 4th, but he may be well out of touch with the leading 3. The important thing is he's well ahead of the next group, which includes John Tuttle, and that's all that matters for him as far as the Grand Prix is concerned. Down the hill and into the shadow they go. The end is in sight. And there's Dave Clark, and you can see the gap between him and the others, but more significantly, the gap between him and his rivals for the biggest prize of all. But the race is on now for the Westminster title. Mamedi in the lead. Binns is 2nd. Lewis is 3rd. One of these 3 will produce the winner. Who has the sprint finish? Who can kick as they turn for home out of the shadow and into the sunshine of Pall Mall, where huge crowds now are lining the finishing straight of some 400 to 500 metres. Mamedi has looked comfortable and good throughout. Steve Binns has run one of the races of his career, and David Lewis too, as Ron was saying, has kept himself out of trouble. Hasn't had the lead at any stage, but perhaps now as they turn for home, he's going to have to find an extra kick to stay with Mamedi.
Well, Mamedi has made a burst. He's put his kick in with 500 metres to go. It's like kicking up the home straight before the bell lap, and it really is a kick, and it doesn't look like these other 2 are going to be able to match it. Dave has been following Steve Binns. He maybe has seen the danger and seen that Mamedi has kicked, and maybe he's left it too late.
Mamedi looking absolutely superb. He's absolutely gliding along now. He has the confidence as he laps back runners to know that even though David Lewis has sprung away now from Binns and is really going to put the pressure on over the final 200 metres, Mamady surely has the race in his pocket. And the Portuguese, who has so often dropped out, who's rarely been seen running in Great Britain, is now today winning over a lot of new fans. The world record holder for 10,000 metres on the track becomes the winner of the Westminster 10K. A marvellous win in 28 minutes, 10 seconds. Second place goes to David Lewis. Third, Steve Binns. What a great run by him. And we look back down the finishing straight for the figure of the man, as Mamady receives the crowd's congratulations, the man who will surely be lifting the Grand Prix prize, Dave Clark. Clark finishes fourth, but wins the big prize. And John Tuttle, in fact, made a tremendous finish to finish within a couple of places of Clark, but it won't matter. Clark gets the big prize, Mamady gets the victory.
Well, a superb finish and a superb run by Fernando Mamady. Let's just confirm the result now and give you the final Grand Prix standings with Peter.
So there's Fernando Mamady, winning time 28 minutes 11, confirming his status as an athlete of the very highest world class. Second, David Lewis, 28 minutes 15 seconds, and third, Steve Binns, 28:17. But most importantly, Dave Clark was fourth today, and that was enough to win him the overall Grand Prix, 295 points, and a total of £6,150 in prize money from these three races. John Tuttle, fifth today, came second in the series. Steve Binns came third. Carl Harrison, who was eighth today, in fourth. John Richards, 13th today, get enough to get fifth. And Colin Moore, sixth place today, sixth overall. And again, a Bingley Harrier, like his clubmate Steve Binns, and that was enough to get Bingley Harriers the overall Grand Prix team position. Tipton Harriers were second, and Gateshead Harriers in third place.
So here he is then, the winner, and over £6,000 richer, Dave Clark. Dave, obviously very, very hot going. Was this the toughest of all three?
Very much so, yes. I haven't felt... well, I felt absolutely wiped out from the start of this race, as probably was obvious on the television. Basically because of the flu and injury I had, which knocked me out for the 2 weeks after Cardiff, which gave me only this week to get moving again. And whilst I felt very good, in fact, this week, I think the heat and the 2 weeks off really contributed. So I suffered a little bit today, but glad I've run well, and it's great stuff.
I know you've been the national cross-country champion. Do you think this is a greater achievement than that?
Well, I think winning the national cross-country probably is the highlight of every cross-country runner's career. Once you've won it once, maybe it's not quite so important to win it again. But for me now, to run as well as I have done, should we say, for 5 weeks, and it's not just about today, it's about all three races. And it's very difficult to keep at that sort of level for 5 weeks in a row. So, yes, very important run today.
Dave, very well done indeed. You're going to please the bank manager again a bit like Yvonne. Well done, especially in this smashing achievement.
Many thanks. Well, I told my parents and my coach, John Sullivan, and all my other training partners.
Right, you've done it. Thanks a lot,
Cheers.
Dave. So congratulations to Dave Clark. Looking ahead to next weekend, we're going to cross London and go to Haringey, where Sebastian Coe runs for his club in the European Championships.
Next Saturday, my club Haringey are bidding to become the first British winners of the GRE European Clubs Trophy. I'm hoping to be doubling at 8 and 15. If you can't join us at the New River Stadium, be sure to watch it live on ITV.
And Sebastian Coe's 1,500 metres at 2:30. That's the start of our coverage of the European Club Championship on World of Sport next Saturday. Tonight we say congratulations to our Grand Prix winners, to Dave Clark and to Yvonne Murray. I hope you've enjoyed our series. I hope it's put you in the mind to enjoy your athletics with us here on Channel 4 and on ITV throughout the summer. From sunny Westminster, bye-bye.